Hello, it is IR Smart, and in this video, I'm basically just going to see how long I can talk about Star Wars. I'm challenging myself. I don't expect you to watch this whole thing. I'm really just uploading this just to, show the evidence that I talked about Star Wars for however long. I think I could probably go for like 2 hours. I don't really know how long. I'm really just going to go until I can't talk anymore. I have a clock here. As you can see, it's a 10:44. I don't know if you can really see that. It is 10:45 now. I'm basically just going to have that there so you can see that time is actually passing and there isn't no editing trickery going on here. I may have to stop sometime midway through, like pause, go to the bathroom, probably get lunch at some point because I'm going to need to eat. I have my water bottle here. I have that to drink from, and I have 2 refills of Kirkland water because I'm probably going to need water refills. And then I guess so I'll probably have to go to the bathroom. But basically, I'm just going to try and talk for as long as possible about Star Wars. I'm not reading off a script here. This is all in my head because I talk a lot about Star Wars. I'm challenging myself to see how long I can go without stopping, just talking about Star Wars. Okay, you ready? Again, I don't expect you to watch this whole thing through. Maybe just skip around, watch a few parts, or just leave this on in the background. Get me watch time. That would be the best thing you could possibly do. Just leave this on while you're doing something else. Listen to it, kind of like a podcast, or don't listen to it at all. Just leave it on, muted, and watch it. Whatever. Either one works for me. So anyway, should we begin? I think we should begin. So let us start by defining what Star Wars is. Now you see, Star Wars is the greatest thing ever. Okay, look at this. Look at my shirt. Look how cool this is. Star Wars, 1977. Like, all right, it's amazing. Okay, so basically, in 1977, the first Star Wars movie was released. But what is Star Wars? Well, it is a movie. It is a movie that was released in 1977, but that name has been retroactively changed to Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Now, back when this came out, it was a brand new movie. Nothing had come before this. It wasn't based on anything else, purely of the mind of George Lucas. George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars. I'll talk about him in a minute, but we need to talk about what Star Wars is because, it's special. It's a movie saga, and not just movies, though. It has, 9 movies in total, 9 main movies, and then there are also a couple of anthology movies, as well as some other weird movies like the Clone Wars movie and the Holiday Special and the Ewok movies. There's 2 of those. Some other weird stuff we don't like to talk about. There's also the series, various series on Disney Plus, as well as some animated series like the Clone Wars. So Star Wars is a lot, and it's constantly growing with new things, which is great. It can be a bit difficult for new people to get into it, but the dedicated fans, we have all this new Star Wars content coming out, and it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan because it wasn't always, back in pretty much up through like the early thousands and into the 2010s, Star Wars was a very nerdy thing. It was only a thing nerds were into, the computer science geeks and that sort of thing who were just, grew up with it in the 80s. And now that they were older, they talked about Star Wars because, all the other nerdy kids grew up in the 80s playing with the Star Wars toys and stuff. The nerds were the ones who were just still into it. A lot of people had grown out of it, but there was a group of people that still were into it. So that when Disney bought it in 2012, this kind of revived Star Wars, especially with, when Force Awakens came out in 2015. Personally, this is actually when I watched Star Wars for the first time. Little bit of IR Smart lore here. So basically, I was born in the year 2002. Great year to be born, honestly. So yeah, 2002. It wouldn't be until, let's see, I was 10 years old when Disney bought Star Wars. I wasn't really aware of that or what that meant, though. And it wasn't until the summer of 2015 I actually watched Star Wars for the first time. I started with, A New Hope, the best Star Wars movie. Thank you. Anyway, so I watched A New Hope first, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Then I watched Empire. Empire's amazing. And I watched Return of the Jedi. And I was like, oh, this is great. I love these. Then I actually rented all the discs. My aunt had all the discs. I rented them from her. She has a huge movie collection. She's great. Anyway, so I watched all these, and then I went back and watched prequels. Watched episode 1, 2, and 3. And I didn't hate them. I just liked the originals better. Because I was like, these are better. And also, at the time, the sequels weren't out yet. So the Star Wars opinion was, the originals are good, and the prequels kind of suck. But they're okay, I guess, but most people hate them. Especially this is the opinion of most Star Wars fans I talked to. And most Star Wars fans were older. I didn't have that many friends at the time, well, in general, but I didn't have that many friends at the time who were into Star Wars. Then, as at that time, in the following years, I gained my current friend group of Star Wars fans, and they're great. I love my friends. I don't talk about them very much, but they're great. It's like personal life stuff, YouTube versus personal life. Anyway, so Star Wars, I really got into it in my middle school years and my high school years, and that eventually led to this channel. So, there you go. There's your quick IR Smart lore, how I got into Star Wars. So anyway, Star Wars is amazing. And I love Star Wars so much. Star Wars fans, it's kind of weird. You talk to Star Wars fans in real life, they're great. You get to talk about them, all sorts of stuff. I want to go to conventions someday. That'd be amazing. They don't have any near me, and the travel is kind of ridiculous. So, but meeting Star Wars fans in real life is great. You get to talk about Star Wars and stuff. Meeting Star Wars fans online, not so fun. Star Wars fans online are kind of annoying. They're just so mean, especially with the whole prequel versus sequel thing. I don't really get it. Why has everyone got to be so upset? Like, oh, prequels are better, sequels are better. Like, why can't they just be good on their own? Okay, I like both of them. Okay, I like and dislike both of the trilogies equally. Originals are the best. All right, don't at me. Originals are the best. Anyway, what was I saying? So Star Wars is just something so ingrained into our society. And how did this happen? Let's go back to the beginning. Let's look at the man, George Lucas, who created the trilogy. What's he all about? So George Lucas is from California. I don't remember exactly what city, but he's from California, and he grew up in like the 50s and the 60s, late 50s, early 60s kind of time is when George Lucas was growing up and becoming a person. George Lucas was really, really into hot rods and cars and all that sort of stuff. Really big car guy, George Lucas. You wouldn't know it, but you can kind of see it. I'll get into it later. You can really see it in Star Wars, especially in one way. But anyway, George Lucas really likes cars, so he worked on cars. I think there was a local racetrack near where he lived. He actually was like kind of worked in the pit crew for one of the racers. So that's pretty cool. I could be wrong about that. That's just I'm pretty sure that happened, or either that or he just got to meet one of the racers. But I do remember seeing a picture of him with one of the race car drivers and him talking about it. So anyway, there's that. So big into cars, right? Well, this will make a lot of sense later. But anyway, so George Lucas is also into making movies. This happens after he's in a car accident. He's in a car accident. He's driving really fast one night, and he almost dies. He nearly dies. He goes to the hospital, and this is a big moment in his life. He's talked about this multiple times in multiple interviews. But that was kind of the moment he realized, wow, life is a fragile thing. I gotta take care of that. So anyway, that's where George Lucas kind of got his start. He just not really got his start, but this tragic event was very impactful on his future life. So eventually he goes off, does some other stuff, kind of just figures out what he wants to do. Eventually he goes to directing school. I think he has to convince his parents to let him go. Oh, just a second, I'm getting a call. Never mind, it's a spam call. Anyway, so George Lucas goes to college. Okay, so yeah, so he goes to college, and in college he works in this movie. It's called THX 1138. Now you may recognize that title, but you probably haven't seen the movie. Okay, so THX is like THX, like the da. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's like sound design and stuff. They worked on remastering a lot of movies and making good sound stuff. Like any kind of Disney movie from the early thousands had that beginning at the beginning of the disc. You definitely heard it, and also on the Star Wars VHS copies, which I have right there under my clock. So anyway, the THX, it's a company he created later, but THX, the name, goes back to this movie. That's where it started. Also, 1138 would later be referenced in Star Wars, where they're like, oh, which prisoner cell is Princess Leia in? Oh, she's in cell block 1138. So, fun reference there. Also, it was referenced in Force Awakens, I think. There's either a stormtrooper that's 1138, or maybe like another cell block that's 1138. There's something. Also, remember that Finn was FN 2187, which was the cell number that Leia was in. She was in because they were in cell block 1138, but then cell number 2137. Yes, numbers. I can remember numbers. Anyway, back to Star Wars. Back to George Lucas. So this guy creates a movie called THX 1138. Yes. Okay. So this movie was created for like a film festival, and it won. It won the award at the local college film festival because it was great with critics. It's a very dystopian movie. It's about people who are living in a society where the government controls everything, kind of like 1984, but a bit different. They live in this very white environment. Everything's just white, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of dystopian, kind of scary movie, and just really depressing. But it went really well at the film festival, so that's where George Lucas kind of got his start, his first big movie. Then later he took that movie and made it into a whole feature-length film, because they had him direct some other movies, but nothing he created. It was just hey, we got this script, we need a director. You're a new guy, direct this movie. So he directed some other small projects, but his first big movie that he made himself was a full-length version of THX 1138. This did not go over very well, and George Lucas' wife at the time, I think he had two wives, if I'm not mistaken. He had his current wife and his previous wife. So his previous wife was like, hey, that movie's, no one wants to watch that. You should make a movie people want to watch. And so then, George Lucas was like, okay, you make a good point. Because this movie didn't go over very well. People were like, it's just so depressing. The critics liked it, but the audiences didn't. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna make something that audiences like. So George Lucas thought back to his childhood, the late 50s, early 60s, and about hot rods. What did this create? American Graffiti. Great movie. I have actually seen this one. I haven't seen THX 1138. I'm gonna get around to it. But American Graffiti, amazing movie, really. It's just George Lucas' first big movie. You can really kind of tell, like, yeah, this is George Lucas. Just in very minor things. It's when I've watched Star Wars multiple times, I notice little directing things and little like dialogue things. I'm like, yeah, this is George Lucas. So American Graffiti is great. It's a fun little story about like a bunch of teenagers. It's their last day of like celebrating high school. There's like a big dance going on. It's their last day before they all go off to college. So they're all kind of just hanging out in this town they all live in, cruising around at night. Everyone in this town just kind of cruises around in their hot rods at nighttime and listens to music on the radio. So I mean, this movie was made. You have to realize in the early '70s, and the early '70s in the United States were not a good time to be an American. You had the Vietnam War going on. You had like drugs and stuff going on. Really bad economy. Bunch of movements like the hippie movement and all sorts of other stuff going on. It was just everything was kind of crazy in the '70s. I'm not doing it justice explaining it here, but it was not a good time to be an American. It didn't feel that great. Everyone was like, "What the heck?" So a lot of movies at the time were looking back. There was a lot of war movies that were looking back at World War II because it was like, hey, remember World War II when we were proud to be Americans fighting in another country, not Vietnam where we're ashamed to be Americans fighting in another country. Again, I'm not going to get into it. If you're not familiar, this is America history stuff. If you're an American, you get what I'm talking about. If you're not an American, you're going to have to look it up. But basically, I'm talking about Star Wars here. I'm not going to tell you a whole lesson about American history. Basically, America was really, really proud in the World War II times, not very proud in the Vietnam times. So a lot of movies at the time were about World War II and just the 50s and 60s, that years following World War II. America was very prosperous in this time. So that's why George Lucas was looking back fondly, as were many other people his age, to this time. And he made this movie to be like, hey, remember how great this time was? We all just had fun. We were all just doing whatever. We didn't care. So that's basically what that movie was. American Graffiti is a movie that looks back on a time fondly. And that's why it did so well in theaters, because all the Americans were like, yeah, remember when it was great to be an American? This is amazing. I love this movie. So that got George Lucas, on the map. And the success of that movie is what allowed him to make Star Wars. Again, American Graffiti, it's a great movie. Also, fun fact, Harrison Ford is in this movie. Harrison Ford was actually working as a carpenter at the time. He was still an actor, but he was just working as a carpenter because he was making more money doing that. So he was like, hey, George, this salary you're offering me, I'm making more as a carpenter. Pay me more. And George was like, okay, fine. So that's where, George Lucas and Harrison Ford got their start. I don't know if you knew this, Harrison Ford later goes on to play Han Solo, Indiana Jones. He's very close with George Lucas. So that's how they got their start. Another fun fact, Harrison Ford often got drunk on set. They had to ban him from drinking, like, at all on set because he just made so much trouble. And the filming location and, like, the hotel they were staying to film this movie, crazy stuff. So anyway, the movie is about hot rods. Again, George Lucas loves hot rods. The whole movie is about, dudes driving around their hot rods. And there's also these multiple stories. They all kind of intersect. There's, like, this one kid trying to go on a date with a girl. There's another kid that's, like, trying to find this mystery girl. Another kid, like, picks up this random girl on the street who's, like, a kid. And he, like, takes her home. And, I don't know, it's just all this stuff going on. It's kind of a strange movie to explain. And, but it's just really cool. So anyway, the movie it's just good, again. And you can really see that's where George Lucas got his start. It was his first big break. And that success led him to be able to make Star Wars. So finally, we're at Star Wars. Now, George Lucas had the idea for a while. His original script was kind of weird. And it's also interesting. There are a lot of characters, like there was characters named Mace Windu. And some other characters that, a bunch of names that he ended up using in the prequels, but were in the original script for A New Hope. So, a lot of people say, like, oh, George Lucas knew, like, the entire story of, like, the prequels of, like, the originals and the prequels. He knew that all from the start. Not necessarily. He was kind of winging it as he went along, but a lot of the big story beats he had, like, Anakin and Luke and that whole thing. He had that going. So, for Star Wars, he basically wrote the entire script for the original trilogy in 1977. It's just he realized, ah, crap, I'm going to have to shorten this because it was so long. So, I think he ended up changing things eventually, but his original script was basically the entire original trilogy. He just chopped it into thirds and said, okay, fine, I'll make the first movie just this little part here. So that's what Star Wars is. It's actually the first part of a very, very long movie. And that's what the original trilogy was. So, because, again, Star Wars was so successful, he got to later make those movies. So, basically, Star Wars. It's amazing. If you couldn't tell, I've mentioned before, Star Wars is my favorite movie. Like, ever. I know everyone's like, oh, Empire Strikes Back is better. I love Star Wars. It's so near and dear to my heart. It's amazing. Because this movie revolutionized special effects. I don't know, many people don't notice that. But Star Wars, like, changed special effects. He created ILM. There's a documentary on Disney Plus I started watching, haven't finished yet. But he created ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, to make special effects that no one else was making. So that's how you get, like, all those miniatures that look really good. And all the special effects with all the laser bolts and all that stuff. And the sound design of the sound effects in the movie. So much of this was just new. Like, again, miniatures weren't a new thing, but a lot of things that they were doing, no one was doing. Just the special effects of how they made Star Wars was brand new. So a lot of crazy stuff. I could get into all the special effects. I mean, I might later if I got time for it. But anyway, so Star Wars. George Lucas creates a very interesting universe because he takes inspiration from multiple things. He's taking inspiration from, westerns. He's taking inspiration from sci-fi movies. He's taking inspiration from samurai movies. Taking inspiration from World War II dogfights movies and that sort of thing. So he's taking inspiration from all these different ideas and just combining them. The thing I find the most interesting is that sci-fi at the time was kind of like, what if we like took the things we have and made them like really futuristic? Like, let's take a car, now it's a flying car. Let's take a gun, now it's a laser gun. That sort of thing. But everything in previous sci-fi movies at the time looked very new and shiny and fancy and all brand new technology. So it all looked good. It didn't look rusty. It didn't look old. It was all fancy and shiny, like kind of like Star Trek. I haven't watched Star Trek, but I know like in Star Trek everything looks so nice and clean. The thing with Star Wars though is the galaxy is lived in. This galaxy has existed for a very long time. For example, let's take a look at Luke's Landspeeder. Luke's Landspeeder is a flying car essentially. It hovers above the ground, but it isn't shiny. It isn't new. It's old. We can see it's old, and because this kid's just living on a dirt farm. This is an old piece of technology by the time that Star Wars: A New Hope takes place, which is a really interesting idea. It's a great world building of showing that look at this future technology in this universe. That technology is so common that this old, rusty, beat up land speeder is just the car that this kid drives around in. So that's a great way of just showing the detail of this world. Technology is so far advanced that stuff that seems incredible to us is old news in the Star Wars galaxy. Great world building, amazing world building. And there are many, many more examples of this, like with the lasers and lightsabers and stuff. All this stuff, is common. It isn't like, oh my gosh, look at this. I have a lightsaber, brand new, amazing technology. Wow, it's like, oh, lightsaber, that's old. That's like old. No one uses those anymore. The Jedi are extinct. And it just sets up all these ideas that get explored later in the prequels and in other material. So again, George Lucas is a master at world building. It's his greatest skill. Dialogue, not so much. Even Alec Guinness, who played Obi-Wan, one of his first things he noticed was like, this script kind of sucks. Dialogue is awful. But he said, like, yeah, this really intrigues me. So that's why Alec Guinness eventually, ended up playing Obi-Wan. He was like, he just liked it, There's something charming about it, I think is his exact words. Alec Guinness, I've watched old interviews with him. He's just such a way of talking this guy had. Really interesting character. Just, very, like, posh British guy. Very, very interesting guy to play Obi-Wan. So anyway, the original script of Star Wars: A New Hope, it was not easy to make. It was not easy to make this movie. It had, it had a small budget, for, like, at the time. I think it was, like, only a couple $1 million, which is small. Even at the time, like, that was a small budget. Because they weren't going to put all their money into this project from this still fairly new director. And it was 20th Century Fox. Yeah, 20th Century Fox. They were like, all right, you're new. We're going to give you a lot of money, but not like a lot of money. So he had to work with what he had. A lot of shortcuts were made, and you can really tell the special effects don't hold up. I think they still hold today, personally, but still, if you're watching them compared to stuff today, it's like, oh wow, that's kind of cheap. Like when Obi-Wan's Force Ghost falls, it's literally just like a empty hood that just kind of falls on the ground. It doesn't look the greatest, but it's enough. You get the illusion. It keeps up the illusion, and it's just special. So That's a strange complaint I see sometimes when people are like, oh, the special effects are so bad in the original trilogy. Like, what? You have to realize, at the time, this was groundbreaking stuff. Like, it doesn't look as good today, but at the time, seeing, like, lasers and stuff in movies, and lightsabers and stuff, that was incredible. They did upgrade a bit with the special edition changes, and just remastering some stuff. I've made a whole video about special edition changes, you can go watch that. But basically, a lot of the special edition changes are just making stuff look better, digitally remastering them with that sort of thing. But still, like seeing like a spaceship fly through space, what like a dogfight in the World War II movie is remarkable. Like no other movies were doing this at the time. There were special effects in movies at the time, but nothing like Star Wars. It was groundbreaking. Kind of like everyone says like Avatar was groundbreaking for like CGI effects. I don't remember it being that great personally. I don't really know. I never now Avatar 2 is coming out. And it's like okay, the special effects look like special effects in pretty much every movie. I don't see what's so special about this. Whatever. So anyway, but actually in 1977, the special effects in Star Wars were groundbreaking, and that led to it's such big success. No one, everyone wanted to see a movie that had these crazy special effects. Everyone wanted to see that. It was cool, but also the story. The story George Lucas specifically made to be for everyone, a modern myth, something everyone can get behind and enjoy. It's really clear cut, good guys and bad guys. All right. Now I'm a stormtrooper, so I guess I'm on the bad guys. But still, like George Lucas made it clear cut. You know who the good guys are. You know who the bad guys are. Rebels and Empire. It's very very clear in the movie who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And also, it's the hero's journey. Now, if you're not familiar with the hero's journey, it's something I've talked about multiple times. Basically, the hero's journey is something by John Campbell, I think is his name. Basically, this guy was like, every story like kind of follows the same basic circle. You see it in every story, even like ancient tales, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is something that's like 6,000 years old. The story from ancient Sumeria, and a lot of like old religious stories and Greek myths and that sort of thing, all the way up into modern literature and movies. You have this idea of a hero. What you have is a hero at the very beginning of the story. They start out in their ordinary world. Up here is the ordinary world. Up down here is the strange world. They're up here in the ordinary world, and they go off on their adventure because they have someone who's like, hey, I'm gonna bring you on a call to adventure. There's this character. Basically, in the movie, that's Obi-Wan, right? Obi-Wan tells Luke, hey, you should come, with me to Alderaan so we can save this Princess Leia. And then there's the refusal of the call, where Luke's like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna stay here. I don't want to go with you. I can like take you to Anchorhead, but I'm not gonna go with you on this journey. And then eventually something happens, for that Luke being, his parents, not his parents, his aunt and uncle die, and that's like, all right, fine. Then he goes on his adventure. Then you meet allies. He meets Han Solo and Chewbacca. They go on their adventure. Eventually they meet Princess Leia. And then somewhere at the bottom here, there's the death and rebirth. I don't remember exactly what the death and rebirth in Star Wars are. Oh wait, no, Obi-Wan dying. Obi-Wan dying when the Mentor dies. That's Obi-Wan's. That's Luke's death and rebirth because he doesn't actually die. It's just it's a phrase. Okay, so basically Luke is then he loses his mentor. It's very sad for him, but then he's reborn. He goes on, and then he goes off to save the galaxy. There's the coming home with the elixir. Again, all these really weird phrases in the hero's journey. Basically, then Luke is kind of coming towards the end here, and then he saves the galaxy. And at the end of the story, he's back in his normal world, but he's better than where he started. He started as some nobody farm boy, and he ends the movie as a galactic hero. That's the hero's journey. And the next movie, he does another hero's journey, and after that, he does another hero's journey. It's amazing. Hero's journey it's a timeless way of telling a story, and it just really connects with the audience in a special way. That's why it's so effective. We love to see it. We love to see a zero become a hero, right? Everyone wants to see that. It's a classic story. Everyone wants to be that hero. So that's why Star Wars is just such a timeless masterpiece. It has such a simple story, but it's this incredible world. Everyone's like, oh, Star Wars, it's got aliens and like lasers and all this cool stuff. That's what draws you in. That's the hook. The thing that people love about Star Wars is the story, the timeless story of good versus evil, of like family, of connections with friends. That's what Star Wars is really about. We can get so caught up in the lore and all that stuff. I think a lot of people forget that's what Star Wars is about. It's about that simple journey, that simple storytelling. And obviously it's been expanded now into the prequels, which gets more into the world building and about this tragic fall of Anakin. The prequels are more like a Greek tragedy than anything else, showing the fall of Anakin Skywalker. And yeah, so then the sequel trilogy. I mean, they didn't really have a plan for the sequel trilogy. It has some cool stuff in it though, and then all the series just kind of add more stuff to it, more stories. Okay, how are we doing? We are at 25 minutes. Wow. Is anyone still watching at this point? Yeah, comment if you're still watching. Anyway, so, what time is it? 11:10. Okay, so basically, what am I going to talk about next? Star Wars, I was talking about Star Wars, The Hero's Journey. Basically, Star Wars did extremely well in theaters. Like ridiculously well. Like, one of the best movies at the time, sold so well, people lining up outside theaters trying to get into this movie. And it was a remarkable experience. I think I've told this story before, but my dad, my father, he was pretty cool because at the time he was what, like 6 or something. Anyway, so he was like 6 or something, and he really wanted to go see Star Wars. And his brother, very weird story. I love it when my dad tells this story. I'm not telling it as well as he does. My dad's great at telling stories. Anyway, so my brother had dad's brother. My uncle had a loose tooth, and it was just getting really annoying because the kid was always complaining like, "Oh, I got this loose tooth." Yeah. So their mom, my grandma, was just like, "All right, if you let me pull that tooth out, I'll take you to go see Star Wars." My uncle reaches up into his mouth, rips out the tooth, gives it to his mom, says, "Okay, can we go see the movie?" And she's like, "Okay." So that's how my mom, my dad, and my grandma, my dad, and my uncle all went to go see Star Wars. Cause yeah. So again, and that was just impactful, impactful on my dad's life. He loved Star Wars, still loves it to this day. Every new Star Wars thing that comes out, we watch together. Because, I mean, it's just special. It's special to him, it's special to me, it's special to so many people around the world. We can all argue about what Star Wars is the best, but it's special. Star Wars is something special to so many people, and that's why I love it. So anyway, that's a fun story about how my dad went to go see it in theaters. And then, of course, he went and saw Empire, went and saw Jedi, all that stuff. And then he went and saw the prequels. My dad hates the prequels with a burning passion, which is weird because back in like the 2016s, when I was getting more into the Star Wars fan base, was when prequel love started to begin, where all the people my age started to love the prequels. So that's where I started to be like, Dad, the prequels are good. And he was like, No, they're not. They're garbage. They're terrible. And also at the time was where everyone was, when sequel hate was starting to kick off. So obviously me, being young and impressionable, just went with the public opinion online that was prequel bad, sequel good, or no, sequel bad, prequel good, yes. So, yeah. That was me for many years in the Star Wars fan base, just being like, I hate, the sequels are so garbage, they have so much problems in them, but like the prequels are amazing. Everyone's like mean to the prequels, but they're so good. Everyone should be mean towards the sequels, not the prequels. Meh. And now I'm a bit more, based. I realize that both trilogies have their own strengths and weaknesses, and we can look at them separately and don't have to compare them. Anyway, I've talked about that enough. But anyway, Star Wars. It's such a special thing. You may think I'm running out of things to talk about. Oh boy, I haven't given you a plot synopsis of every movie. Are you ready? Are you ready for me to give you a plot synopsis of every movie? Let's see if I can do this. So we're going to start with A New Hope. So Star Wars A New Hope. We start off in a galaxy where we know that there is a large empire that controls pretty much the whole galaxy and a small group of rebels that have won their first victory against the Galactic Empire by stealing plans to a secret battle station. Now, this already gets us intrigued in the story. We're like, okay, there's a secret, we got these small group of rebels, big group, big empire. We know who the good guy and the bad guy is. Just in the opening crawl, we know what's going on. We have the setting without telling us too much about what's going to happen in the story. We just get the important background information. So now we know what's going on. We immediately see a very small ship, and we're like, okay, wow, that looks really good. We see a huge ship, and we're like, oh, dang. Okay, that's the Empire. The story doesn't even tell us. But as soon as we see that giant gray triangle, we're like, okay, those are the bad guys. We know who the good guys and the bad guys are here. The Empire are the bad guys. So very clear. We then cut to the inside of the ship. We see our two droid characters, R2-D2 and C-3PO. They're the comic relief characters of this movie. Talking about like, crap. They're coming after the princess, who we're going to meet later. And we're going to be destroyed for sure. So then we see an action scene, we see a bunch of like the rebel soldiers kind of like, crap, something's going to happen. Boom! Bunch of stormtroopers come in. The best characters in every movie ever. God, I love stormtroopers so much. They totally wipe out the rebels, And for some reason, people say that they can't shoot, despite the fact that they literally killed this entire hallway of rebels with extreme efficiency. So whatever, stormtroopers can't shoot, I guess. Anyway, then, after that whole thing, the rebels are running away. We see Darth Vader. As soon as he comes in, the music swells. Oh my gosh, the music. John Williams, amazing. I'll probably keep talking about him multiple times. John Williams, amazing composer. George Lucas made the best decision ever by getting John Williams to do the music for these movies. Anyway, as soon as Darth Vader comes in, we're like, oh, that's our villain. You don't even need to tell us. That's our villain. Just by the way he looks, by the way he enters the room, by the way the music swells when he walks in, that is Darth Vader. That is Darth Vader right there. That is our villain. And we know what's going on. We know what's up. He looks around and just walks forward. Doesn't say a word. So then we see that Princess Leia is a princess of Alderaan. You don't really need to know what that means. But basically, she has the plans. She has little plans on a disc, gives them to R2, and then R2 goes off. And then Leia is captured, and she tries to lie her way out of it, but Vader is like, shut up, I know what you did. You're coming with us. And they take Princess Leia. So now we have a character that's been captured, kind of like a damsel in distress sort of thing. I'll come back to that. But basically, so now we have R2-D2 and C-3PO. They get in an escape pod, and they go down to the local planet. Now, the reason that they're above this planet of Tatooine is because Leia has an ally here named Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, she is trying to contact him for help, because she needs his help to help the rebellion. So basically, now the droids are going down to the planet. They have to get the plans to Obi-Wan. However, only one of them knows this. Only R2, which is the small droid that just makes beep-boop sounds. And the talking, funny British droid does not know this, so he's just like, oh dear, where are we going, R2? What are you doing? So, this is just funny. We get a lot of funny action scenes with them. So yeah, basically, there's always comic relief characters in Star Wars. Because, in the prequels, it was Jar Jar, and in the originals, it's R2 and 3PO. They're the comedy duo, whereas Jar Jar is more just haha funny. So, I mean, George Lucas has said this himself. Jar Jar is basically just the prequel version of R2 and 3PO. The comic relief characters. Anyway. So next up, we have, they're on the planet. So Leia's been captured, Rebel ship has been captured, however the droids have escaped with the plans. And the Empire soon realizes this and like, ah crap, we gotta go down there, we gotta get them plans. So, now the Empire is going down to the planet to try and figure out where the droids went. And at this time, the droids have now been captured by the local Jawas, which are these little creatures that collect droids and try and sell them. Now, through extreme luck, and probably the Force, these droids end up at the Lars Homestead, which is a little house in the middle of the desert. And what do? They farm moisture. They have these little machine things that collect moisture from the atmosphere, because it's the desert. They need water. Water is very important. Okay, so water. They collect water, that's their job. And finally we're introduced to Luke Skywalker, our hero. Just some regular kid, lives on a farm, but he has big aspirations. He wants to go do something with his life. He just sits on the farm all day. So he thinks about joining the Imperial Academy. He's going to go off become a pilot in the Empire, because, I mean, that's what all his friends are doing. All of his friends are gone. They've all gone to do other stuff. So he just sits on the farm all day. But his family, his aunt and uncle, want him to stay. And we also find out that he doesn't really know what happened to his father. I wonder if this will become important later. Anyway, so basically, now the Jawas show up with their big sandcrawler, and they're like, hey, want to buy our droids? And they're like, sure. Conveniently, out of all the droids that are on sale, the Lars family buys the 2 droids that are most important to the story. So they buy R2-D2 and C-3PO. So now Luke Skywalker, some random farboy, is in possession of plans to a battle station that is the most important thing in the galaxy. So that is our MacGuffin. R2-D2 is the MacGuffin. It's the thing everyone wants. The Rebels want it, the Empire wants it, everybody wants the Death Star plans. So basically, what was I saying? So anyway, while trying to, clean up the droids, because they just need droids for, use on the farm. They need to fix their moisture evaporators and do routine tasks. However, they have an important mission. So while, trying to clean up the droids, Luke finds part of a secret message, where a mysterious hologram girl says, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Now we know this as Leia from the beginning of the movie, but Luke doesn't know this. So he immediately is like, wow, this girl's hot. This will become important later. Anyway, so, then they find out, what the heck's going on? C-3PO is like, I don't know what this is. R2, what is this? And R2's like, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. And C-3PO is like, I don't know what he's saying. So anyway, then in the middle of the night, R2 leaves. He has to go find Obi-Wan. And he doesn't tell anybody. So then C-3PO and Luke are like, wow, what the heck? So then they wait until morning and they go out to find him. They're very lucky because they do find him. Anyway, then they get attacked by Tusken Raiders. And it looks like it's pretty bad for Luke because Tusken Raiders are just, wild, basically these wild people that live out in the middle of nowhere. So then when all seems lost, a mysterious man comes out of nowhere and saves them. This is Obi-Wan, Ben Kenobi. It's Ben Kenobi, everyone. So Ben Kenobi, what? Hey, Ben Kenobi, this droid here says he's looking for someone named Obi-Wan. Do you happen to know an Obi-Wan Kenobi? And Ben Kenobi is like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's a name I've not heard in a long time. And Luke's like, so, you know him? And Ben's like, well, of course I know him. He's me. And Luke's like, why didn't you say so? So anyway, that's just funny to me. And then Obi-Wan, who knows R2, doesn't say that he knows R2, even though he should because they met in the prequels. Anyway, so then, this whole thing goes on. They go back to Obi-Wan's house, and Obi-Wan's like, oh, hey, so I knew your dad. Yeah, I trained him, and then he was killed by Darth Vader, so, oops, sorry, that kind of sucks. This is a lie, but we don't know this at the time. Anyway, so then Obi-Wan is like, this is your father's lightsaber. And we get to see a lightsaber for the first time. You have to realize how special this moment is. When you watch it back, now, it's just kind of like, oh, cool, it's a lightsaber. We know what a lightsaber is. We've seen Star Wars before. But for audiences who had never seen a lightsaber before, this is magical. You have this little hilt, this little, little thing here. You click it, whoosh, blue light comes out of this thing, lights up the room. We see, Luke going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then, whoosh, the sound effects, everything about it is perfect. It's amazing. Captivates the audience. Oh, it's so incredible. So lightsabers are just amazing. And that's our first taste of a lightsaber. So we have this now. We've established, lightsabers. And also Obi-Wan tells us a bit about the Jedi, about the Force, about the Clone Wars. All of this will become important later. So anyway, this is our first, big exposition dump of, what's going on in this galaxy. What makes up the Star Wars galaxy? Which is, again, why I think it's so important to watch A New Hope first. Because The Phantom Menace does a decent job of setting up the world building, but I think A New Hope just does everything perfectly. So again, that's why I encourage people to start with A New Hope and not Episode 1, because you're actually going to start with a good movie and not Episode 1. Anyway, so, and back to A New Hope. After this, Luke's like, I don't really want to. His refusal of the call. He's like, I don't want to go with you, because, I forgot to mention the message. So, Obi-Wan manages to get the whole message out of R2-D2, and they find out that, Leia's in trouble. She has the plans. She needs to get them to her home planet of Alderaan back to the rest of the rebels. So Obi-Wan's like, well, I guess we got to go to Alderaan. And Luke's like, I don't want to go to Alderaan. I gotta stay home and help on the farm. So anyway, then Luke goes back to his home and finds out that, or wait, no, where did they go next? No, they're going along and they find the Sandcrawler. They find the Sandcrawler that sold them the droids, and they're like, ah, crap. This has been destroyed. Is it by Tusken Raiders? And Obi-Wan says, no. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise. Some are like, ah, crap. The Empire tracked this Sandcrawler. That means they might have tracked him back home. So Luke rushes off to find that his family has been turned into skeletons. Owen and Beru have had their house burned down, and they've turned into skeletons. So the Empire burned them or something? I don't know. Maybe this is no disintegration. Maybe that's what that means. Anyway, so they've been disintegrated. There's actually a bit of speculation here. So in Empire Strikes Back, Vader specifically tells Boba Fett no disintegrations. So there's a theory that perhaps it was Boba Fett who actually disintegrated Owen and Beru, because they weren't just killed by a blaster bolt. They were burned to a crisp. So either their house just was lit on fire by their stormtroopers, or Boba Fett showed up. Now in the special edition, it was changed to have Boba Fett be on Tatooine. It's really weird. There's a scene where he looks directly at the camera. Very strange. So that could be what they're implying with that it was actually Boba Fett who was working for the Empire and burned Owen and Beru for some reason. But again, very deep Star Wars lore. You don't need to know that. Anyway, what was I saying? So anyway, now Luke is sad because his whole family's dead, but he also has no reason to stay on the farm. So he goes back to Obi-Wan's like, well, guess we're going to Alderaan. Then Luke's like, yeah, good job, Luke. We're going to Alderaan. I know your family just died. That kind of sucks. But this is great. This is great. Anyway, so then they go to Mos Eisley Spaceport, a wretched hive of scum and villainy. So anyway, this is just like the local town. It's got a bar. It's got weird CGI animals running all over the place. Anyway, it's a great place to go. And we also see that the Empire's there, and they're looking for these droids. So anyway, they go into the cantina, and we're introduced to the greatest piece of music that has ever been written ever. Cantina Band. Let me give you a rendition. So anyway, Cantina Band. It's amazing. Anyway, in this cantina, we have, all sorts of crazy creatures. This is just, again, another iconic scene. Because we've seen a few aliens so far, but most of the people we've seen have been humans. This is the first time we see that this galaxy is rich and full of so many aliens and weird species. So we see, like, so many crazy creatures. It's basically just they went to a Halloween store, grabbed all the funny masks they could find, put them on a bunch of people, gave them weird costumes, and were like, alright, sit in this bar and act like you're having a good time. So that's what we get in the cantina scene. It's another great exposition. Without telling us, hey, the galaxy is full of aliens. It shows us this vast group of aliens. Incredible scene. So anyway, Luke goes up, gets a drink from the bartender, and an alien comes up to him like, and Luke's like, what the heck, I don't know. And then this guy's like, he doesn't like you. I don't like you either. You just watch yourself. We're wanted men. I have the death sentence on 12 systems. And Luke's like, I'll be careful. And he's like, you'll be dead. And then Obi-Wan's like, oh, this one's not worth the trouble. And this guy's like, ah, and then Obi-Wan literally just chops the guy's arm off. Despite the fact that he's a Jedi that's supposed to be in hiding, he chops the guy's arm off. This shows us our first, what a lightsaber can actually do. It can chop arms off effortlessly. So then everyone just kind of chills out, and the music goes back to do 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 do. Despite the fact that someone just dismembered a person, nobody cares. Again, this shows us that there really isn't that much laws in Mos Eisley. It's kind of lawless. Some random guy can just chop a guy's arm off and nobody cares. So again, another just great world building thing you may have missed. So anyway, after that, then Obi-Wan's like, hey, this Chewbacca guy says he might have a ship for us. Then we're introduced to Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. What does that mean? That doesn't make any sense. A parsec is actually a measure of distance, not time? Shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, Han Solo, this cocky guy, he's just like, yeah, I'm the best pilot, I have the best ship, I'm like the coolest guy ever, so yeah, can you give me like 17,000 credits? And so anyway, Obi-Wan's like, alright, fine, we'll give you 15,000 and then more when we actually get to Alderaan. And Han's like, dang, I didn't think they would actually take it. This is sweet, Chewbacca, we're gonna have so much money. And so then, we find out the reason Han needs so much money, because a character named Greedo shows up and tells Han, hey, you owe money to Jabba the Hutt, so I'm here to collect on that money. And Han's like, don't care, and shoots first. We're talking about, I'm also, clarification, I'm giving a plot synopsis of the original, the not edited special edition, so I'm not going to be talking about the Jabba the Hutt scene. Also, Han shoots first, alright? I'm not talking about any Greedo shooting first. Han shoots Greedo dead, because that's how he is. He's a cowboy, he doesn't care. He just shoots people. He leaves, he gives a tip to the bartender, tosses him a credit, says, sorry about the mess. Anyway, great scene. So now we go back to the hangar. We find the Millennium Falcon. Not the aluminum. The Millennium Falcon. And Luke's like, what a piece of junk. I mean, it looks really cool to us as an audience. But again, it's very rusty. It's very beat up. And it doesn't look that great. It's not like some fancy brand new ship. And Han's like, hey, it might not look like much, but it's got it where it counts. So the Millennium Falcon, right? They all get on this ship. And no, the Empire's here. They're trying to stop us. So they've managed to get away. Oh, I forgot to talk about the scene. Basically, there's a scene where the Stormtroopers stop Luke and Obi-Wan on their land speeder. This is before they go to the bar. So anyway, they're stopped by Stormtroopers, and Obi-Wan does a mind trick. Basically, he just says, you don't need to see our identification. And the Stormtrooper's like, we don't need to see your identification. These aren't the droids we're looking for. These aren't the droids we're looking for. You may go about your business. You can go about his business. Move along. Move along. Move along. So anyway, again, another incredible scene. Basically, this shows us that the Force is a really mysterious thing. We don't really know what it can do, but we know it can just kind of influence people. Now, we don't actually ever see any other Force really used in this movie. At the end of the movie, Obi-Wan tells Luke to use the Force, but it's not really clear what that is. It becomes more clear in later movies. But in Star Wars A New Hope, it's just kind of a mysterious thing, Obi-Wan can just kind of do this hand motion, and all of a sudden people do what he wants. It's not clearly defined. It's just kind of a mysterious magic thing. So anyway, the Force. Anyway, cut back to the Empire, and Princess Leia is being interrogated. Now, the Empire is trying to figure out where the secret hidden rebel base is, so they're interrogating her. Anyway, that doesn't actually work. All their interrogation methods fail because Princess Leia is kind of epic. She's kind of a bad A word. She's kind of cool. Anyway, so Princess Leia is great, and then the Empire brings her up to Grand Moff Tarkin, who's our actual villain in the movie. Actually, a lot of people think that Darth Vader is the main villain of Star Wars: A New Hope. It's actually Grand Moff Tarkin. He is our main villain. Darth Vader's just kind of there. So our main villain is Grand Moff Tarkin. Did I talk about Vader's iconic voice? I have not talked about Vader's iconic voice yet. Okay, going back to Vader, voiced by James Earl Jones. Okay, so basically, there originally was a British guy who was doing the voice, the actual guy in the suit, but his voice was like, "What happened to those plans you took? Tell us where those plans are." And it doesn't sound very cool. So George is like, "Hey, James Earl Jones, I need you to give us a cool voice." He's like, "I want to know what happened to those plans you sent us." So it's just much better. It's much deeper. They add a couple voice filters over it, and they give him the iconic breathing of. It's very menacing, but it's also like, why is he doing that? Why is he breathing like that? Maybe there's a reason he has to be in that suit. It sets up all these questions in our mind. Anyway, so back to Grand Moff Tarkin, and we have our main villain. Now, fun fact about these scenes: Peter Cushing, who played Grand Moff Tarkin, had to wear these boots because all the Imperial officers have to wear these big boots, these big rubber boots, and they were very uncomfortable. So we actually requested that most of his scenes be shot from the waist up, so that you didn't have to see the fact that he was wearing pink slippers. Yes. And Carrie Fisher even commented on this, saying it was hard to be intimidated by a guy wearing pink slippers. Because in this scene, he's supposed to be like all intimidating and scary, but Leia just looks down and like, he's got, those are pink slippers. So anyway, very funny scene there. So anyway, basically during this scene, Grand Moff Tarkin is like, hey, so we're here on this thing called the Death Star, and tell us where the rebel base is, or we're gonna blow up that planet. And Leia's like, what? You can't blow up a planet. No one can blow up. Alderaan destroyed. Yeah. So anyway, this again is just an iconic scene because we see like they're like, hey, tell us where the rebel base is, and she's like, fine, it's on Dantooine. It isn't on Dantooine. That's another lie. But it doesn't matter. She was thinking that she was gonna save planet of Alderaan, but they're like, okay, we don't care. We're gonna blow up Alderaan anyway. So Leia's home with all of her family, everyone she's ever known, literally everyone she's ever known, is now dead. And an entire planet of millions of people has just been blown up. Again, this movie makes it very clear who's the bad guys. And it makes it very hard when I, as a stormtrooper, try and defend the Empire, because I have to explain, okay, Alderaan being destroyed. Millions of people killed in an instant for no reason other than the Empire needing to make a show of force. Yeah, I can work with that. So it makes it very hard for me to defend the Empire. But still, again, just an iconic scene. It shows, oh crap, the Empire has a weapon that can destroy planets. Now, this is told to us in the opening crawl. It says, the Death Star, a weapon with the destructive power to destroy an entire planet. And also earlier in the movie, there's a scene where the officers are like, hey, this battle station is now the ultimate weapon in the universe. I suggest we use it. And Vader drops one of the best lines ever, saying, oh, I can't believe I forgot to tell you about this scene. Anyway, Vader is like, do not, something about this technological terror you've created. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force. I kind of butchered that quote there, but basically what this is showing us is that, yeah, the Force is super powerful, but we don't know how powerful. But all we know is that apparently the ability to destroy a planet is less significant when compared to the Force. Anyway, then Vader shows us that he can Force choke dudes. He does this a lot. He literally just does this, and the guy's like, again, another iconic scene. So, just amazing. so nice. So I guess that's the other, we have the Force mind trick, and then Vader choking, and at the end of the movie, they use the Force loop. I'll get to that. So anyway, oh man, I'm talking so much about it. Can you tell I love this movie? Anyway, so next up, we have, what happens next? I know this movie like scene by scene. Not in the right order, but I know all the scenes. So we had Alderaan blow up, and now we have we're back to Obi-Wan and Luke and Han and Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2-D2 on the Millennium Falcon. So they're all here, and Luke is trying to figure out how to use a lightsaber, and he's kind of using a training drone, which is kind of shooting laser bolts at him and makes so that he can deflect them, which is our like first use of a lightsaber we can see. It can deflect blaster bolts. So Luke is training with that, and Obi-Wan's like, "Hey, cover your eyes." So he puts his helmet on him that makes it so he can't see. Now at first he tries it again, and he gets hit by the training drone, but then he's like, "Nah, reach out and like feel it with your feelings." What does that mean? I don't know, but somehow Luke is now able to do this, and Han's just like, he just got lucky. And then Obi-Wan drops another banger line where he says, "In my experience, there's no such thing as luck." Anyway, then Obi-Wan's just sitting there, and he's like, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, something terrible has happened." It's like a million voices cried out, and we're suddenly silenced. Now we as the audience know what's going on because we just saw Alderaan blow up, but Obi-Wan is just like, "What the heck, man?" And Luke's like, "What the heck, man?" And Han's like, "I don't care." Anyway, then Han Solo was also like, the Jedi are dumb. The Jedi don't exist anymore. That's kind of hocus pocus. No one really believes in that. Despite the fact that when he was a kid, the Jedi were like in their prime. Because, let's see, A New Hope takes place 19 years after the fall of the Jedi Order, and Han is like 30 or something. So he definitely should be old enough to remember the Jedi, but whatever. Anyway, they're, what was I saying? So now they get to Alderaan, right? And they're like, "Ah, crap. Where the heck's Alderaan? This is an asteroid field. Did we get mixed up? What's going on?" So now our heroes are trying to piece things together. Uh, so then they see the Death Star off in the distance after a TIE fighter flies by, and they're like, "What the heck is a TIE fighter doing here?" And then they're like, "Hey, it's going to that small moon over there." And then Obi-Wan's like, "That's no moon. It's a space station." Now, at this point, we'd seen like shots of the Death Star and seen it's pretty big, but we haven't really had any idea of scale. But this shows us, we see a little tiny dot on the screen, and we're like, what the heck is that? It becomes bigger as they get closer to it. And like, "Ah, crap, we're getting caught in a tractor beam now. We're getting pulled closer to this thing." We see it get bigger. We see it get bigger. It's taken up the entire screen now. We see the Millennium Falcon, which we saw in a hangar to give us an idea of scale. It's a pretty big ship. But now we see it. The Death Star is getting bigger and bigger, and we're like, this station is the size of a moon. Holy crap, this thing's huge. So again, this is our sense of scale. Anyway, it then goes into a hangar inside the Death Star, and we're like, well, crap, our heroes have just gotten caught. So what they do is they hide in these little smuggling compartments inside the ship, and then the Empire is like, "Hey, we found this ship. We don't really know where it's from." And Vader's like, "I sense a presence I haven't felt since," and then he just walks away. I don't know. Anyway, so then Obi-Wan, and Luke and Han Solo are all hiding in these compartments, and then some stormtroopers come in and they beat them up and take their armor. So now they can, infiltrate the base. So they go in and they go up to the security office, and then they take out the guards that are in there. So yeah. Anyway, so now they're in this little thing, and they're like, "All right, we got to figure out what we're here to do. We gotta figure out how to get out of here. First, we got to disable the tractor beam." While they're figuring out how to do that, they're like, "Hey, that princess we're looking for, she's here. She's on the station. We were looking for her on Alderaan. She's here." And like, well, dang, we gotta save her. And it's funny because Han was like, "I don't want to just sit around here. I want to go do something." And then as soon as they say, "Hey, we should go save this princess from the detention level," he's like, "I don't want to do that. I don't want to go anywhere." Which it's just funny. So anyway, then they get convinced, and Obi-Wan's like, "All right, I'll go take care of the tractor beam. You guys figure out the princess." So then they all have to sneak down. They take Chewbacca because they can't fit him in Stormtrooper armor, and they're like, "All right, we're just gonna like put these handcuffs on you, and you're gonna be a prisoner." So they take him down to the prison level, and then they try and bluff their way out of it by like, "Oh, we got a prisoner transfer from cell block 1138," and they're like, "What? No one told us that." And so then basically they just shoot their way out of the situation. Pretty good way to solve problems. Just shoot your way through it. Anyway, so now they're like, "Ah, crap! There's someone calling me on the thing." Han takes off his helmet and is like, "Everything's perfect here right now. We're fine. We're all fine here. How are you?" And he just ends up shooting at boring conversation. And he says, "Boring conversation." Anyway, "Luke, we're gonna have company." So anyway, now we know that the Empire is on to them. They have to be quick. So anyway, Luke rushes off and opens the door to Princess Leia's room. Princess Leia's just kind of sitting there. She's actually kind of laying there, kind of seductively. She's kind of like laying, like hand on her hip and that sort of thing, laying down. Anyway, so Luke is like, "Dang, a woman. I haven't seen one of those in a while." So anyway, Then she was like, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Oh, also fun fact: they couldn't decide whether or not they wanted Carrie Fisher to do a British accent. So some scenes, she actually does kind of do a British accent, but eventually she just kind of drops it and goes back to her Native American accent. So again, just fun fact. So anyway, she's like, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" And Luke's like, "Huh? Oh, the uniform." Takes off his helmet and says, "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you." Fun fact about the the short for a stormtrooper line. I think you know I've made a video called "Why 5'11" is the perfect height. I get that line a lot. Everyone's like, "Haha, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Because stormtroopers are supposed to be 6 feet tall, and I'm 5'11". Yeah, I get that one a lot. Anyway, so I don't even know. Mark Hamill's like 5'6". He actually is short for a stormtrooper, or at least he was 5'6" when he. I think he's probably still about the same height. Anyway, so Luke is short. Haha, funny. Anyway, so then they get out, and all the stormtroopers are there, and basically everyone's just kind of crammed in this hallway, and they have nowhere to go. And Leia's like, "Well, this is some rescue." And then Leia just takes charge of the situation, shoots a few stormtroopers, shoots a grate, and says, "Into the garbage chute, flyboy." And again, this is amazing. This is great because we've up to this point thought that Leia was going to be the damsel in distress character. It was like, oh, I need help. I need a brave knight to save me. But no, she comes out, says, "Pew, pew, pew, pew. I'm taking control of this." Pew, pew. She's amazing. Princess Leia is amazing. An example of like an amazingly well written female character, and again, a fairly new idea at the time to have, the strong female character. Everyone always talks about that in movies these days, like, oh, they have to make strong female characters. Princess Leia is a perfect example of a character who just stands on her own. She has emotions. She's, still it can be emotionally vulnerable. We see this in later in this movie and in the next movies, but she takes charge of situations. She's, very strong, and that's great, and that's why everyone loves Princess Leia so much. I guess it makes her a feminist or whatever. I don't really know. I don't really know much about feminist theory, but I guess Princess Leia would be a feminist in that sense, which is a good thing. Leia is an amazing character. So anyway, she takes charge of the situation. They all jump down this garbage chute, and Han says, "I don't care what you smell. Or, get in there, you big furry oaf. I don't care what you smell." So then they all jump into the garbage chute, and they're all like, "Great, garbage, trash, sewage. This is a great idea." So now they're all mad at each other. Anyway, Luke then gets pulled down by a mysterious tentacle we see moving through the water, and we think Luke's gonna die. And he almost does. I think Mark Hamill actually burst a blood vessel by being underwater for so long. But anyway, I could be mistaken on that fact, but I remember reading that somewhere. Anyway, so now they're like, well, crap, the tentacle monster went away. What the heck happened? And then we notice the walls start closing, and they're like, ah, crap, what do we do? So quick, Luke grabs his communicator, and he's like, "R2-3PO, help us out." Because they've just been sitting up there in that little office room. However, the only problem is that they were having a good time in here, but now there's a bunch of stormtroopers that are coming in. So they hide in the closet, and the stormtroopers walk in. And one of the stormtroopers hits his head on the door. And it's just a funny blooper that are left in. And it's one of the best scenes in all Star Wars. The stormtrooper goes bonk, hits his head on the door, and is not even addressed. You can audibly hear it like go bonk, and it's amazing. And so anyway, then the stormtroopers come in. They try to like figure out what the heck happened. Someone came in and shot up all our dudes. And the droids are like, "Ah, we were attacked. They went that way." And this works somehow. Anyway, then R2 and C-3PO leave, and R2's like, "Hey, you should like check on them." And at this point, they're getting squished. Our heroes are like this close to death. And our 3PO's like, "Hey Luke, how's it going?" "C-3PO, turn on all the garbage mashers on the detention level. Turn on all the garbage mashers on the detention level." So anyway, then our 3PO's like, "Ah, shut them all off." So anyway, he turns off all the garbage mashers. And so I guess no one's going to be able to use the garbage disposal on a Death Star anymore. Anyway, so next up, they're like, "Yeah, we did it. We saved." They escaped from there. And Leia, again, is like, "Can someone get this big walking carpet out of my way?" Oh, fun fact I forgot to mention. So this entire time, through this whole movie, Leia wears this white outfit. And you might notice she kind of her boobs are kind of just going like this throughout the whole movie. Because George Lucas was like, "Hey, so I see you're wearing that outfit, but you can't wear underwear on that dress. Because there's no underwear in space." I've talked about this before. It's just a very funny thing George Lucas said. It's based off a kind of true fact. Astronauts have to have very special underwear or something because the decompression in space or whatever. It's this whole thing. It's like, oh, if you wear underwear in space, it can like strangle you. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but George was just kind of like, yeah, you can't wear. I think he just didn't like the way it looked because I mean he had a very specific aesthetic. I just think he wanted to see Carrie Fisher without a bra. Because, I mean, it's George Lucas. He literally makes her wear a bikini in the sixth movie and creates Twi'leks. So, George Lucas, and also, he specifically put Padme in that outfit that gets ripped, that very tight white outfit that gets ripped, and we get to see her chest. And there's also that outfit she also wore in episode 2, the black one, the one I'm talking about. So, yeah. George Lucas, very, very interesting kind of guy. Anyway, so there's that whole thing. Anyway, so, on our heroes are trying to run around the Death Star trying to escape. And during this whole time, Obi-Wan is running around. He eventually shuts down the trash compactor, has to, sneak around some stormtroopers. He does another cool trick of the Force where he distracts the stormtroopers by making something fall over there, and the stormtrooper's like, huh, what was that? And he gets away. So anyway, then we finally get our big confrontation. We find out that Vader has been looking for Obi-Wan. He felt his presence. And he's like, Obi-Wan, I'm here to fight you. Again. So it's implied that they fought before, and it's, when I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Only a master of evil doth. And we get the greatest lightsaber battle of all time. It's actually the most boring one if you look at all the lightsaber fights in Star Wars. This one is boring. It's so boring. It's just two old guys going, Now, you have to realize, again, there wasn't that much choreography for this fight. It was kind of just, two dudes just kind of going at it with big sticks that they then later added the laser effect in. So no one really knew what they were doing. Because, again, no one had seen a lightsaber fight before. This was the first one. So obviously it was going to be a bit rough. In Empire, they can make it a bit cooler because, everyone had seen Star Wars. They knew what a lightsaber fight looked like. So they can make it better. But for this one, it didn't look that great. It looked kind of silly. So yeah, that was A New Hope lightsaber fight. It's just kind of silly. But again, you have to realize this was crazy at the time. Because it was a sword fight. Again, George Lucas took inspiration from a lot of things. One of them was samurai movies, which have these slow sword fights with katanas where it's like... whoosh. It's very slow, but it has some fast movements in it. Again, that's where this fight takes inspiration from. Samurai movies. Again, another great thing about Star Wars. So, now we're back into this whole thing. And so they're fighting, right? They're going at it. And then Obi-Wan is like, oh, look, that's Luke over there. It'd be really funny if I died. So anyway, then Obi-Wan dies in the coolest way that anyone's ever died in any movie ever. Vader swings his lightsaber. Obi-Wan disappears into the Force. It's mysterious. It's the perfect way to kill off this mysterious character. He mysteriously disappears. He doesn't, it's not like we see his limp body fall. We just see his robe. He disappears. It's like, whoa, what the heck? What happened? Did he die? And Luke's like, no. And then all the stormtroopers shoot at him, somehow don't hit him. This is where the stormtroopers can't aim thing starts, because, they're not that far away. And there's, 5 stormtroopers all shooting at Luke, and they don't hit him. Now, the reason is because they were told not to kill. They were told to pursue, not to kill. So it's honestly pretty impressive that they can shoot past him and not hit any of the main characters. So, again, stormtroopers can aim. They do it extremely well. They were intentionally told not to shoot Luke in the scene. But again, whatever. So anyway, what else? So since Obi-Wan disabled the tractor beam and allowed them to escape by sacrificing himself, all of our heroes get on the Millennium Falcon and now they're getting away. They have to get to the Rebel base, but there are TIE fighters after them. So we see the dun 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 dun. Again, the music in Star Wars is amazing. So anyway, TIE fighters, they're after the Millennium Falcon going pew 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 pew. So now Han and Luke are like, come on, we have to get the lasers. So they go to the center of the Millennium Falcon and to the bottom and to the top where they have these cannons. And they're shooting the TIE fighters going pew 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 pew. And Luke's like, I got one. And Han's like, great kid, don't get cocky. So anyway, now they're shooting all the TIE fighters and they get away and they're like, yeah, we did it. And then Han goes to Leia and says, very very important piece of information here. Leia says they let us go. So Leia knows this. She knows that they're tracking their ship and just doesn't do anything about it and just goes straight to the Rebel base anyway. She could have, had them go somewhere else and maybe remove the tracker, but no, she's like, they let us go. So again, this explains why none of the main characters died escaping the Death Star. They were let go. They would have been killed if they weren't, the Stormtroopers would have killed them if they wanted to actually kill them, but they didn't. So again, Stormtroopers can aim. They are not incompetent idiots. Stop saying that we are. Anyway, so what are they doing now? Oh, and then Leia leaves back in the Millennium Falcon, and Luke shows up, and Han's like, "Hey kid, what do you think? Guy like her, guy like me, girl like her?" And Luke's like, "No, no," because Luke wants to get with Leia. He doesn't know, guys. He doesn't know. Anyway, so then they get to the Rebel base, and they're being tracked, so they know that the Empire's coming after them, but don't do anything about it, even though they easily could have. But whatever. Hey, Leia just does that, just dooms the whole rebellion. Anyway, so now they're like, all right, guys, we gotta go blow up this Death Star. But we have the plans now. We analyzed them, which we somehow did in like 10 minutes. So we somehow analyzed the plans and found a small error in the Death Star plans. There's a small thermal exhaust port, only 2 meters wide, and then this one rebel's like, that's impossible. That's too small. You can't hit that. Dude, 2 meters. That's like a big hole. But anyway, still, like you're in a big spaceship. I understand what he's saying. Anyway, then Luke says, I used to blast Womp Rats in my T-16 back home, which seems kind of like, oh, Luke's like overconfident or whatever. But also, it's just like you think about it, like you're saying, wait, Luke used to go around in his speeder and shoot animals for fun. Like he shot animals, like 2 meters wide, like that's like the size of like a tiger. You're telling me Luke went around and shot tigers and like other animals for fun? Luke, that's the sign of a psychopath. What is wrong with you? Anyway, so now we're just gonna go off and fight the Death Star. Now there's a great scene where Luke reconnects with his friend Biggs. I think that's his name. Yeah, Biggs, the guy with the big mustache. Anyway, this guy was actually supposed to be in the beginning of the movie, but it was cut. It was a deleted scene where Luke talks to his friend Biggs. Biggs is like, "Oh, I'm gonna go off and join this rebellion," and Luke's like, "Oh, whatever. What the heck, man." So anyway, then he goes off, and then he meets a couple of other the rebel pilots. So then they all get in their X-wings. I love X-wings so much. Such an incredible design. You have a ship where like it starts off like this, and then it goes like, and now with an attack mode. It's so cool. Such an incredible design. So you have all these amazing X-wings, and they're flying through space. You also have the Y-wings, which are kind of like, how do I make a Y? Y? I don't really know. I know Y-wings are amazing. So anyway, then they have those, and now they go off into space, and the Death Star's here. It's slowly approaching, but it has to make its way around the planet to reach the small moon that the rebels are on. So anyway, we know we're on a timer. There's a limited amount of time that we have until a Death Star gets into position in which it can fire. So anyway, so we have the rebels are now a race against time. Now we have the greatest sequence in any movie ever. Now the original sequence is a bit different because it was upgraded with special effects. So if you watch the version from now, it's going to be a little different because it's just longer because they added more special effects scenes. But still, the original version is incredible. You have all the lasers going around, and it really does look like a dogfight between these little miniature ships. Because, I mean, with the World War II dogfight footage, it was basically just they had a bunch of planes flying around, and they had cameras on them. But with this, they took a bunch of miniatures and just filmed it the same way, but it looks incredible. This scene is amazing. So, again, another way that George Lucas took inspiration from other movies to make this movie. And everything just blends together so perfectly. So now, we have the rebels, they're going around, they're shooting all the turrets, and the Empire deploys all their TIE fighters, and Darth Vader gets in his personal TIE fighter. And he's taking out all the rebels, and it's like, ah, crap, this is going horribly. So now the rebels have to go on this trench run. And there's this little, cave. Because the reason is because, the thermal exhaust port is over here. The Death Star is a circle. The rebels start over here. The fastest way to get to this point is to go around, at the equator of the Death Star. So they have to go through this trench. And so they're going through this trench, they're going around the Death Star, and they're being chased. They have to just go fast in a straight line, basically. Well, it's a curve, but, it's basically a straight line because the Death Star is huge. Anyway, so they're going fast, all right? And they're like, well, but they keep getting shot down. They're all getting shot down. It's crazy. And then we're at the most tense moment. Luke is the only one left. There are other X-wings, but he's the only one left in the trench. He's going. Darth Vader and his TIE fighters are right behind him. Darth Vader is about to shoot, and he takes out R2, and Luke's like, ah, no, I lost R2. And then it's like, all right, Luke, Vader's going again. He's going to take out Luke this time. Whoosh, Millennium Falcon swoops in. TIE fighter literally, goes sideways, knocks Vader out of there. Han takes out the other TIE fighter, and then Han says, you're all clear, kid, now let's blow this thing and go home. There are a lot of funny lines, such as, look at the size of that thing. Just so many that's what she said lines in this scene. Just watch the entire sequence and just say that's what she said after everything that any of the rebel pilots say. It's such a fun time. You won't regret it. Anyway, so now we're at the sequence. Luke fires, and his proton torpedoes Somehow, all right, look at this. So here's the trench run. Here's the end of the trench. There's a hole right here, big hole. Luke is going this way. He shoots proton torpedoes. They go down. They go down. Now you might be thinking, oh, they got sucked in. No, this is an exhaust port. Air is coming out. Luke, how does that happen? How do the proton torpedoes go down? Luke doesn't use his targeting computer. He's not targeting the missiles. So, I mean, Obi-Wan tells him, use the Force. So he literally uses the Force to make them go into the thermal exhaust port. Don't know how, but again, Force. So I really don't know how they were going to complete this mission without using the Force, because that's really the only way they could have possibly done it. Because the other guy who tried before just shot the proton torpedoes and they didn't go in. So, whatever. Anyway, the proton torpedoes go in. Everyone's running away now, and boom, Death Star blows up seconds before it's about to blow the royal base. And it's like, whoa, da da na na na. It's amazing. So now the Death Star's been defeated, and the Empire's been defeated, and we're back on Yavin 4. It's a big ceremony, and now everyone's like, dun da da dun da da dun 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 da 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 dun 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 na 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 na. Anyway, amazing sequence. Han and Luke get a medal. Chewbacca doesn't get a medal for some reason. I don't know. So anyway, then everyone's like, "Whoa, yay!" and they clap. And it's the end of the movie. And it's the greatest movie ever. I love Star Wars so much. Again, this movie is just special. It's special to me. It's special to so many people. Did my phone get a notification? Oh, I did. Oh right, my video. What time is it? All right, 4 minutes. I'm gonna have a video being uploaded. I'm recording this on Wednesday, so yeah. I already read that comment. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have my video go up in a second. I'm going to pause the video and go make lunch and also go to the bathroom. So I will be back in a short while. I just need to take a break. But that was pretty good. We've gone an hour and 11 minutes. Okay, I will be back. Just give me a second. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, I got back from my lunch. What is it? It's 12:14 now. So basically, I had a pot pie, microwave pot pie for lunch. Oh, excuse me. I had a microwave pot pie for lunch. It was really good. Thank you for asking. So anyway, where did we leave off? I was telling you about Star Wars. I gave you a plot synopsis of Star Wars. Now it's time to talk about Empire. Empire Strikes Back. So 1977 was when Star Wars released. 1980 is when we got Empire Strikes Back. Oh man, dude, so amazing. Empire Strikes Back. Most people agree it's the best one. Personally, my favorite is A New Hope, but I agree. Episode 5 is just the best. It just improves upon Star Wars in every way possible. The special effects are better. The story is better. Everything about it is just better. It's a natural progression of the story, where the Empire goes from just being like, ah, crap, we got blown up, to, all right, we're gonna fight these rebels. We're gonna beat the crap out of them. This movie cements my love for the Empire. It's amazing, and I love it so much. And it just does not get any better from here. There is no other Star Wars movie that is as good as Episode 5. So it kind of sucks, because like once you watch Episode 5, it's only downhill from here. Because Return of the Jedi is still good, it's just not as good. The prequels, like 1, 2 are not great. 3 is good, but not Episode 5 levels of good. And then the sequels have some standout moments, but none of them are nearly as good as Episode 5. So, yeah, it's just such a shame. Andor, I would say, probably comes close to being as good as Episode 5, but Episode 5 just has stuff that Andor could never have, like the lightsaber fight between Luke and Vader. It's just amazing. So anyway, Episode 5. Where does this movie take place? It's a couple years, like 2 or 3 years after Star Wars A New Hope. The war between the Empire and the Rebels is raging on. And we see that more and more, stuff is happening, right? Luke and Han and Leia are all high-ranking in the Rebel Alliance now, and the Rebel Alliance is more established. And they're all hiding out on this base on a snow planet. And the Empire is looking all over for them. I mean, the opening credits tells us that Darth Vader is obsessed with finding Luke Skywalker, which, I mean, makes sense. He's the kid who blew up the Death Star. So we now know that Vader is obsessed with finding him. So we now have this. We have this whole thing going on. The opening scene shows a Star Destroyer launching a pod. This little pod goes off, and goes all these. There's a ton of them. They all go to deep corners of the galaxy. So one of them happens to land on Hoth. So it's just kind of floating around, and it's going to come back later. But anyway, we see Luke Skywalker riding on a tauntaun. It's like this little horse ram thing. I don't really know what to describe it. Anyway, it's a tauntaun. Anyway, he's just going around, calls his buddy. He's like, "Hey Han, what the heck's going on? I finished my patrol. I saw a meteor crash over there. I'm gonna go check it out." So anyway, as Luke goes to check it out, boo! Giant hand glasses across the scene. Big white fuzzy hand, and we're like, "Oh no, what was that?" Luke's been taken out. He can't die. We're only like 5 minutes in this movie. So then I forget exactly what happens next, but I'll just stick with Luke for now because I don't remember. It cuts to something else. It cuts to either the Rebel base or the Empire. Anyway, so we go back. Luke is in a cave. He's being held upside down. The blood is rushing to his head. And fun fact about this scene: Luke uses the Force to pull his lightsaber, which is on the ground, to him. The way it was filmed was actually Luke basically just it was on a string, and then he just kind of dropped it, and it was played in reverse. So yeah, fun fact. That's how you make. If you ever want to do a home movie and you want to show yourself using the Force, just like pick up an object and just throw it across the room, and then replay that in reverse and be like, "Whoa, I caught it!" So yeah, fun fact. If you ever want to do it, it's a fun thing you can do. So anyway, then Luke grabs his lightsaber, chops off the arm of the Wampa. Now in the original version of the movie, we don't see it very clearly, but in the special edition, they show the full Wampa. We get to see it, so that's cool. Anyway, then Luke escapes. But back to our Rebel base, we see that Han and Leia are there, and they're talking. Han made it back successfully from his mission, but Luke hasn't because he's still out in the Wampa cave. So they're all worried about him now, and Han talks to Leia. Han has to leave because originally he was trying to leave it in New Hope. He has to pay off Jabba the Hutt. That was established in the first movie. He still hasn't paid him off. He owes Jabba the Hutt a lot of money. This will become important in the next movie. Anyway, so he's like, "Well, I know I want to keep helping with the rebellion, but I gotta pay off Jabba the Hutt." So he leaves, and Leia's all like, "What? You can't leave. You're just leaving us. You leave." And then Han's like, "What, you want me to stay? Well, I'm afraid I'm not going to give you a goodbye kiss." Anyway, this is the start of their relationship. They start off on very, snarky terms with each other. But again, we love them. We love Han and Leia. They're just so great. Anyway, so they're very, very snarky, all right? And so then, Han leaves, but not really, because he finds out that Luke's still out there. And he's like, well, Luke's still out there. My friend is still out there. I'm going to go save him, all right? So he gets on a tauntaun, and then one random rebel is like, "But sir, your time will freeze out there." Han delivers the coldest line ever. Cold, because I'm hot. But anyway, he delivers the coldest line ever of, "I'll see you in hell." Oh man, such a good line. Like, I bet that rebel dude just went down, rethought his entire life. Like, I will never say anything cooler than what Han Solo just said in that moment there. Like, that was so cool. So anyway, Han goes out and into the snowstorm, and he somehow finds Luke. He gets extremely lucky and finds Luke, who's, left the cave. He doesn't have a tauntaun. He's just wandering out in the snow. And right as he's about to die, he sees a vision. A mysterious vision. A kind of blue mist, ghost mist of Obi-Wan telling him, "Hey, Luke, I know you're, kind of dying right now, but you gotta go to the Dagobah system. Go find Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me." Now, you see, this is another inconsistency in Star Wars, because Obi-Wan says that Yoda is the Jedi Master that instructed him. This is actually not correct, because you see in the prequels it's established that Yoda, actually Obi-Wan was trained by Qui-Gon Jinn, who was trained by Count Dooku, who was trained by Yoda. So, kind of trained, Yoda kind of trained Obi-Wan from a certain point of view, but basically this is just an inconsistency. They just changed it in the prequels. But anyway, so there's that. Anyway, so Obi-Wan's just like, basically Luke is just like, "Obi-Wan, or Ben, 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 and then Han kind of rushes through the mist, and the mist disappears. And he kind of shows up, and he's like, "Ah, crap, Luke's dying." Anyway, then the Tauntaun dies, because, that doesn't make any sense, honestly. You think about it. The Tauntauns are, native to this planet, right? Shouldn't they be better at surviving in the cold than, the humans who are not used to living in this cold temperatures? Whatever. Anyway, then Han picks up Luke's lightsaber. I think this is actually the only time we ever see Han Solo use a lightsaber. He picks up Luke's lightsaber and slashes the Tauntaun, and its gooey insides just spill out. And Han just takes Luke, shoves him inside, and says, "And I thought they smelled bad on the outside." So anyway, that's again just another funny line. But it's also just kind of messed up. You're literally stuffing your friend into the corpse of an animal so that he won't freeze in the cold, and you just have to make a funny one-liner. Anyway, Star Wars for you. There you go. So anyway, then they just kind of hide out and make camp around this dead Tauntaun, because that makes sense. Anyway, then a snowspeeder is going around looking for him and finds him, and then they find Han and Luke, bring him back to base, and they put Luke in a bacta tank, which is this big tube of mysterious blue liquid that somehow heals you of all your ailments. Anyway, we're gonna cut back to the Empire now because the Empire, it's amazing. Basically, we see a bunch of Star Destroyers, which we've seen in the first movie. They're a little different in this movie, but I'm not gonna get into it now. Anyway, so the Star Destroyers are in this movie, right? A bunch of TIE fighters are flying around, and then the music is starting to swell like dun 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 dun. So that's kind of starting up. That's kind of starting, and then we see that there's a really big Star Destroyer. And we're like, what? There's a bigger one? Because I mean, everyone's still like amazed from A New Hope, where we saw this giant Star Destroyer take over the entire screen in the opening scene, but now there's an even bigger one. It's like miles longer than the other ones. And we get to the dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Bum bum. All right, so wait. Imperial March, gotta be one of the greatest songs to ever exist in the history of ever. It's honestly just so iconic that George Lucas created this piece of music, and it being in Star Wars like certainly helps. But it's just something. All you have to do is go dun 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 dun, and anyone, even if they haven't watched Star Wars, will know what you're talking about. That's how special Star Wars music is. Even non-Star Wars people can recognize Star Wars music. That's just a testament to one, how popular Star Wars is, but two, how good the John Williams score is. It's amazing. This happens with other songs. They can go da 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 da. That's Jurassic Park, right? Most people will be able to recognize that. And yeah, it's Jurassic Park, right? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I forgot what one it was for a second. Then there's Jaws, and it's like da 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 da, right? And there's Indiana Jones, da 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 da. Most of these songs people recognize, but I would say the Star Wars songs are the most iconic, right? You go because Star Wars da 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 da. Da 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 da. Basically, it's iconic. Everyone knows the Star Wars theme. So yeah, that Cantina Band, Imperial March, so many great songs. Everyone knows these songs, right? Amazing. Ah, did I forget to talk about Binary Sunset? I forgot to talk about The New Hope. Amazing scene. Amazing. So good. So good. The scene where Luke looks at the two sons, and we just see him longing for more. Nothing is said, but we know exactly what's going on. It's beautiful cinematography, and the music swells so well. But anyway, back to Empire Strikes Back. What was going on? So now we see that the Empire, we have that giant ship that Darth Vader's on. This is the Executioner? Or is it the Executor? I can never remember. It's one or the other. I'm pretty sure it's Executor. Or is it the Executioner? No, it's the Executor. I can't remember. I heard it one way one time, another way the other time, and I can never remember which one's the right one. So anyway, it's the Executor. I'm gonna go with that. So Darth Vader is here on this ship, and we found out that one of the probe droids has spotted something on the rebel base, and we see it looks like a shield generator. And Vader's like, "That's it. The rebels are there." And this one Officer Monty, is that his name? I can't remember. Anyway, there's an officer there. He's got a mustache. And he's like, sir, there are so many uncharted systems. This could be any one of them. So there's actually a theory that this guy is actually a rebel spy in the Empire. It's never confirmed by anything. It's purely a theory. But there's a theory that this guy who's like, that's probably not the rebel base. We should check somewhere else. That's probably not them. Let's keep looking. So that guy is probably a rebel spy. So fun fact, we don't really know for certain. Maybe he just feels bad for the rebels. Maybe he's just an idiot. But so anyway, yeah, that's just some theories about this random officer. The Empire has a ton of stupid officers. It honestly makes sense why Vader chokes them out so often. They make so many stupid decisions, especially in this movie. We see a ton of stupid decisions that the Empire makes, which the Empire is so strong, they just have really stupid leadership. It's our biggest flaw is that we have so many officers who do stupid things. I'll get into that later. But basically, so now the Empire is like, all right, cool. We got where the rebels are. We're just gonna show up. We're gonna show up there. So anyway, now we're back to our old base, and Luke's all healed up. He's just kind of recovering, and he's just hanging out with the gang in a little medical bay. And so C-3PO is there, R2-D2's there, Chewbacca's there, Han's there, and Leia's there, right? And then so anyway, then Han's just catching Luke up to speed, Yeah, I was hanging out with Leia. She confessed her true feelings to me. And then Leia's like, what? You stuck up, half witted, scruffy looking nerf herder. And Han's like, who's scruffy looking? And then Chewbacca's like, and then Han's like, laugh it up, fuzzball. Anyway, amazing sequence. And then, anyway, Han is just kind of like, yeah, Leia's into me now, Luke. Take that. And then Leia's like, well, I guess you don't know everything about women then. And kisses Luke on the lips, which is weird because of because it's weird. Anyway, also I forgot to mention in A New Hope, they kissed like multiple times. Cause first they kiss like right before they swing across that gap. I forgot to mention that in A New Hope. That's another amazing scene. Anyway, they Leia kisses Luke on the cheek, for luck, and then they swing across. And then later at the movie, she gives him another kiss on the cheek, right before he goes off to fly his X-wing. So that's weird. But this one's on the lips. This is like for a couple seconds on the lips. Tongue may have even been involved. We don't really know for certain. So anyway, that happened. Uh, so that was kind of weird. Anyway, then Force Ghost Obi-Wan's just kind of there like, should I tell him? Maybe I could tell him, but I think I'll just wait until the next movie. Anyway, so that whole thing happens, and then what? Not too much else happens. I think. What happens next? Do we cut back to the Empire? Anyway, now the Empire shows up. They show up above the planet of Hoth, and they're like, so basically, we find out like, hey, we showed up, really close to the planet. Now, the idea was that Vader wanted to show up far away, so that the rebels wouldn't have their sensors show up that they're coming, because it would have been like, because that would have actually, helped them to destroy all the rebels. Anyway, the fleet commander, or admiral, whatever, that is like the idiot, the guy with the mustache that I can't remember the name of, he has the fleet show up like right next to the planet, sets off all the rebel sensors. They put up their big shield, and now they're all they're defensive. Defensive? They have their defenses up, right? And now Vader's all pissed off. He's like, dang, this guy's stupid. He brought us too close to the rebels. And then the guy's like, oh, well, he thought, it would give us the element of surprise. And Vader's like, nah, he's stupid. Vader then turns around. He's in his meditation chamber, which is sick. It's this place where he can, like, have a little pod where he can safely take off his helmet. And it's the first time we see that Vader is actually really scarred under the helmet. We see a little glimpse of it from the back before the helmet goes on all the way. So anyway, then he turns around. We see on Vader's got like a huge flat screen TV in his room. It's sweet. Anyway, so Vader's just kind of like talking to this officer guy, and he's like, "Hey man, you effed up," and kills him. And he's like, "All right, hey Admiral Piet, you're in command now," because he kills the other guy. Anyway, so finally we have stupid mustache guy dead. This will be the first officer that Vader kills. I think there's a few more in this movie that he force chokes to death. At least one more that I remember. So anyway, so now we have the new guy in command, and they're like, well, guess we got to go to our ground assault because the rebels put up their shield. We were gonna bombard them from space, but because they have their shield, we have to launch walkers now, and this leads to the greatest sequence in like any movie ever. I love the Battle of Hoth so much. It's amazing. And again, it just holds up so well. They had these miniatures. I mean, miniatures like they were this big, but still. And the way that the camera is shot makes these look huge, and sound effects and the way that they move, it's amazing. AT-ATs are still kind of impractical because they have like unnecessarily long legs. If it was lower to the ground, it would make more sense. But just the way it towers over everything, it's really just aesthetics over practicality, which is like our main thing in the Empire. Do we need a giant triangle-shaped ship? No, but it looks cool. It looks scary. Do we need a giant thing with four legs that towers over everyone else? No, but it looks scary. So yeah, that's what we're all about in the Empire. Anyway, so again, this sequence is just amazing. Now, the Empire is pretty stupid. They make a lot of stupid decisions. They're like, all right, so there's gonna be a bunch of rebel ships escaping. So obviously we're just gonna catch them. This one Imperial officer is like, told by one other guy, he's like, hey, we got a rebel ship coming into our range, and the guy's like, good, first catch of the day. Anyway, then the rebels shoot this giant laser that just totally disables the Star Destroyer because apparently it can do that, and the rebel ship gets away safely. Good job, guys. Good job on that one. We really screwed that one up. Really? We really just let them shoot us with a giant disabler cannon, giant ion cannon, and just let the rebels get away? Jeez, we're really dumb here at the Empire. Anyway, so that whole thing's going on. Anyway, the battle on the ground is going pretty well. We're taking out all the rebels, and Luke and a bunch of the other pilots get into snow speeders. And again, this is so good. Dude, this reminds me. I'm going to mention this now. I forgot to tell you about this. The game Rogue Squadron from the Nintendo 64. Look at this. I picked up this game at the store the other day for $13. I played this game once before at like someone's house years and years ago. This game is incredible. I mean, it's Star Wars Rogue Squadron. You look at this. Basically, you play as like an X-wing or a snowspeeder or an A-wing or whatever, and you shoot Tie fighters. The graphics are terrible because it's the Nintendo 64, but like, it's just so fun. I love it so much. So yeah, Nintendo 64. I brought my. I sometimes get this thing out of the attic and play it. For the longest time, I had it up here, but I never played it, so I just put it back in the attic, and now I got it out again. Because of course, the one time I want to actually use it is the time after I put it. Whatever, you don't care. Anyway, so the Nintendo 64 Rogue Squadron game, it's cool. And one of the things you can do is you can fly around a snowspeeder and go around the legs of a walker and do the whole tow cable thing that they do in the movie. Amazing. Such a great scene. Oh, it's just so cool. Because it's such a fun idea. Because they try shooting at it. They can't shoot the AT-ATs down. Also, it's AT-AT. If you say at, I hate you. Anyway, so they try going around the AT-ATs. And they have to use a tow cable. They wrap around the legs. They may just take out like 2 of this way. But still, it's not enough. There are so many AT-ATs. They overpower the rebels. Also another thing about Rogue Squadron, I forgot to mention. So they confirmed that I think it was 2 years ago, they revealed, hey, Rogue Squadron are making a movie about X-Wings and that sort of thing. It's like, okay, that sounds cool. Maybe it'll have some inspiration from the video game by the same name. It's being made by Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman movies. And the thing was, it was kind of like, a while ago it was kind of announced like, hey, Rogue Squadron probably isn't happening because Patty Jenkins is working on Wonder Woman 3 first, which is like, okay, why did you give the director that was working on another movie when we could have gotten a director that wasn't working on a movie? But whatever. So anyway, now that Wonder Woman 3 is confirmed to maybe not be happening, the new news that came out said it might not be happening, which makes sense because Wonder Woman 2 sucked. The 1984, yeah, that one sucked. Anyway, so now it might happen. The Rogue Squadron movie might happen. So that's cool. I'm hyped to see it. If it's a movie just about spaceships, that could be sweet, especially like Rebels versus Empire. In the in-between times, like maybe between A New Hope and Empire, that would be amazing. That would be so cool if they did it right. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, Battle of Hoth. It's amazing. The dun 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 dun. Just all right. No, I can't. It's amazing. Okay, so oh man, I love it so much. Giant walkers. You have all the small rebels in the base, and it's just oh man, it's so cool. Anyway, the whole Battle of Hoth is going on. And then eventually the Empire enters the rebel base, right? And now Han and Leia and Chewbacca, R2 and 3PO all have to get to the Millennium Falcon to get away. But Luke goes off on his own. So the thing is that the Empire totally destroys the rebel base, but most of the rebels escape, and all of the important rebels escape. So even though the Empire won the battle, they like lost all of their main objectives. Their main objectives were to capture the important rebels and like wipe out and not let the rebel escape. And they didn't do that. So the Battle of Hoth was a victory, but nothing really got accomplished by it. So good job, Empire. We're so good at what we do. Anyway, so now the Empire has to, pursue the Millennium Falcon. Because the Millennium Falcon should have a hyperdrive that works. But of course, because of the Millennium Falcon, it malfunctions. This is a major plot point in the movie. The hyperdrive doesn't work, and we can't figure out how to make it work. So anyway, that means that they have to go, normally. Have I explained hyperspace yet? Basically, hyperspace is a magic thing that spaceships have that allows them to go past the speed of light. How does it work? No flippin' clue. Also, a thing I've thought about. So, like when you're in a car, I think I might want to make a full video about this later, but when you're in a car, right? And you like kind of go fast and like, whoa. When you accelerate super fast, you kind of lurch back. Or when you stop really fast, you lurch forward. That's called inertia. How does inertia work in Star Wars? Because we know inertia is the thing, because it's a property of matter, and so it works in the Star Wars because we see how things move. Inertia is the thing, but you have something that's going at the speed of light that slows down to regular speed. Shouldn't that everyone like inside that spaceship just like slam because inertia? Because they're gonna want to because objects in motion want to stay in motion. So if the ship somehow stops, everyone inside the ship is gonna go splat against the wall. So clearly there must be some way that inertia, like, is dampened. Like, there must be inertial dampeners. I don't know if that's an actual Star Wars lore thing, but it should be. Because that's the only thing that makes sense. Fun Star Wars fact. This is a reason. Star Wars has been called science fantasy. It's actually not sci-fi, science fiction. Because science fiction is stuff where it's taking, like, actual science stuff we know and, kind of just looking at like what might this be in the future, like flying cars or something. Star Wars is science fantasy because it has stuff like hyperspace, the Force, all this stuff that really doesn't have a scientific explanation. So yeah, that's why it's science fantasy. It's a mix of like futuristic stuff with just magic stuff like the Force. So there you go. Fun fact: Star Wars is science fantasy and not science fiction. Anyway, what we're doing hyperdrive. So now that means that we get the asteroid sequence. Such an amazing sequence. I love this sequence so much. So many they have to like navigate through this asteroid field, and 3PO's like the chance of successfully navigating the asteroid field are 14,605 to 1, something like that. I don't remember if that's the exact number, but a really big number. And Han says, "Never tell me the odds." And somehow he actually does successfully navigate through the asteroid field, and the Empire is chasing him, which means that they have to not only take their small fighters. They not only have TIE fighters now, they have TIE bombers, which are amazing. Anyway, so now the Empire also has to try and figure out how to get their Star Destroyers through this asteroid field. So actually a pretty good idea by Han to go into this asteroid field. And anyway, they have to go through there. We'll come back to them later. But anyway, Vader is getting increasingly annoyed with all his officers because they keep doing stupid stuff. And also, quite a few ships are actually taken out because, I mean, Vader's like trying to hunt down the ship because, I mean, he wants to capture these guys. And so he's hunting them down, and actually we actually see quite a few Star Destroyers actually get like taken out by asteroids. There's one scene where we can see one get like taken out in the bridge, and then Vader's in like a meeting with all the officers on holograms, and they one of them we see disappear after the bridge gets taken out. So like one of the officers just like totally got taken out by an asteroid. Anyway, random fun fact for you. So what's going on with Luke? He's going across the galaxy, just totally ignoring that his friends are in danger, to go find Yoda, because Force Ghost Ben told him to. Anyway, he goes up to Dagobah, and now he's on a mysterious swamp planet. He doesn't really know what's going on, so he's just kind of chilling there. It's a dangerous, mysterious planet. You know, R2 like gets taken underwater and then shots back up. Anyway, so that's fun. And then Yoda meets this random, strange little creature who tries to steal his food and messes with him, and says, "Oh wait, put your weapon. I mean you no harm," and just kind of talks funny. And it's just really strange. This little puppet guy, voiced by Frank Oz. So anyway, Luke is like, "I'm looking for this wise Jedi Master named Yoda," and then Yoda's like, "Oh, weird, oh." I don't know what it is. Both Ben and Yoda are just like, "I could tell you who I am, but I'm going to introduce myself as Ben, and, not tell you that I'm actually Obi-Wan." And Yoda does the same thing. He doesn't tell Luke that he's Yoda until, like, 10 minutes after he met him. I don't know. Jedi are weird. So anyway, now what's going on? So yeah, it's just funny. Yoda's just kind of a funny character, until it's later revealed he is the wise Jedi Master. That was just kind of like a facade he was showing. So anyway, that's cool. And then we hear Force Ghost Obi-Wan talk again, saying, "Hey, Yoda, you gotta train this boy." And the Yoda's like, "Nah, he's too old. We only indoctrinate kids. He's too old to be trained in the Force." So that's kind of weird. Anyway, and then they get into Force training, Luke does flips and all sorts of stuff and just running all over the place, learning about the Force. Yoda tells him. And then eventually he gets to, he has to use the Force to lift an X-Wing out of the water, right? His X-Wing has sunk into the lake. And so he tries to use the Force. Because at this point we've seen Luke being able to use the Force to lift rocks and stuff. So we're learning more about the Force in this movie as an audience and as Luke. Luke is learning more about the Force. So he's, lifting the rocks and that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. But then he's like, "Well, I can't lift an X-Wing. It's too big." And it was like, "Size matters not." That's what she said. Anyway, so, he's using the Force, and then Luke can't do it. He tries, and he just can't. He's like, "I can't. It's too big." That's what she said. Anyway, so then, then Yoda, right as Luke is just feeling defeated and gives up, just lifts it out of the water. It's magical. It goes, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. Yoda's theme is amazing. Anyway, it's lifted out of the water, and it's like, da, da-na, da-na, da-na. It's amazing. Such a cool scene. So there's that. I love that scene so much. Anyway, then either before or after this, Luke goes in this mysterious cave, and Yoda's like, "Weapons. Need them, you will not." But Luke doesn't take this advice, brings his weapons anyway. So he goes in this cave and sees a mysterious it's a mysterious cave with all this mist and stuff. Darth Vader then shows up. Luke fights him for like a second, and then chops his head off. Jeez, Luke, wow, that was fast. Anyway, so after doing this, the helmet like explodes, and Luke sees his own face. What could that mean? He sees his own face in Darth Vader's helmet. What does that mean? Whoa. It's never really explained, but again, it's just kind of like, it makes you think, you know? What does it mean? It doesn't have a definite meaning. It makes you think. So, anyway, then Luke comes out of the cave like, what the heck? Well, that was a weird dark side cave. So anyway, Yoda just, tells him about this. And, I'm drawing a blank here. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Back to the Millennium Falcon. What's going on with them? Well, they're hiding. They made a pretty clever idea to hide on the back of a Star Destroyer, because they've just been dodging in and out of asteroids. Oh, the thing I forgot to tell you about. Okay, so while they're in the asteroid field, they go into this giant asteroid. There's like one asteroid that's way bigger than all the other ones. So they go inside of it and hide in it. And then they notice while they're in there, they get attacked by things called Minox. They just kind of leech onto a spaceship and try and steal all the power from it. So they have to get those off. But then Han notices, like, when he's shooting them off, he misses a shot and hits the walls of the cave. This makes everything shake, and he's like, what the heck? Shoots a couple more times. What the heck? Why is everything moving? They all get back on the ship. And then as they leave, they're like, this isn't a cave. This is a giant space worm. And we see this giant, and we see, like, the cave walls are collapsing. We see these giant teeth. They narrowly escape. And we see this giant slug reach out of the ground. The Millennium Falcon is tiny. This giant space slug just nearly eats him. It's crazy. It's like, what the heck? This giant slug that's just in space? That's crazy. So anyway, again, just another amazing scene. So then they're out. They're back in the asteroid field. And now they're up against the Star Destroyers again. They have to try and get away from those. Han does a very clever move and hides behind the Star Destroyer and just kind of like attaches to the back of it. So apparently no one sees it. Like, you think the Star Destroyer would have windows like all around the outside, and someone would look out the window and be like, hey guys, what's that thing doing there? Anyway, apparently nobody notices this. No one looks out the window of the Star Destroyer. So anyway, then when the Star Destroyer releases all of its trash, the Millennium Falcon just kind of lets go and goes off. Because while he's sitting there, he's like, Lando. This is a guy I know called Lando. He's nearby on the planet of Bespin. I guess we can go there. Maybe he'll help us out. So anyway, so they're going off towards here, and then Boba Fett, who's a bounty hunter, his ship is just somehow in the trash and just starts following them. And anyway, so also there's a scene. Darth Vader hires a bunch of I forgot about so much stuff that happens in this movie. It's been a while, okay? So anyway, Darth Vader has his first meeting with his master. Because at this point, we saw Grand Moff Tarkin in the original movie. He's dead. We thought, like, alright, so Vader is like the main bad guy now? No, it's the Emperor. Now, we don't know his full name. We just know him as the Emperor. A mysterious hologram. Vader gets down on his knee and says, my master. We know that, dude, Darth Vader isn't the biggest bad guy. There's a bigger bad guy than Darth Vader. We see the Emperor. Mysterious figure. Oh, man, what a guy. And he's like, the son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi. So we obviously know they're talking about Luke. And then, so knowing that, we know that Luke and Vader is looking for the son of Skywalker. Now you have to realize at this point, all anyone knows about this is they know what Ben told Luke in A New Hope, which is that Obi-Wan trained Luke's father, and he was killed by Darth Vader. So we know that's going on, but we don't know that they're the same person. So this hasn't been revealed in the movie. We just know that Vader is looking for the son of Skywalker. That's all we know. So we figure this out with the Emperor, and the Emperor, talks to him and stuff. Then Vader goes off to hire bounty hunters, because apparently his officers are too incompetent to do anything. They have to hire bounty hunters to try and find the Millennium Falcon. So then they all go off and run off, and one of them is Boba Fett. Just super cool. They had all these bounty hunter guys sold action figures, but Boba Fett sold the most. So he got to become super popular, and he got to be in Return of the Jedi, even though they killed him off in like 5 minutes. And he also got a series, which kind of sucked. What time is it? 12:45. Okay, so anyway, what was I saying? So bounty hunters, right? They go off, and the thing I don't get. So anyway, Han just kind of decides while he's on his Star Destroyer to start going towards Bespin, and somehow the Empire beats him there, despite the fact that they don't know he's going there. So, because Lando says that the Empire arrives shortly before he does, so I don't really know how that works. It's never really clear to me. Anyway, Han gets there. They arrive at Bespin, and they get betrayed because Lando betrayed them. He thought he could trust Lando, but he couldn't because the Empire arrived shortly before he did. And Boba Fett's there, and Darth Vader is there, and now they're betrayed. Now they're all captured. And so the thing is, they want to capture Luke. That's the thing. They're just bait for Luke. So Luke, while training with Yoda, uses the Force and reaches out and sees that his friends are in trouble. They're at Cloud City. Oh no, a city in the clouds, that they need help. So Luke has to go off and save them now. And Yoda's like, no, wait, stop, no, don't go, Luke. You have to finish your training. No, don't go. Stop. Anyway, then Force Ghost Ben Obi-Wan shows up and does the same thing. He's like, stop, Luke, you have to finish your training. You can't face Vader. You'll die. And Luke's like, I can't get the vision on my head. I have to save them. And they're like, well, crap. That boy was our last hope. And Yoda's like, no, there is another. Which is like, ooh, there's another hope? Luke isn't the only hope? Is Luke going to die? Is this other hope going to rise up? We'll get to that in the next movie. Anyway, what happens next? So, then Luke goes off. He goes off to Bespin City, which he somehow knows where it is. But anyway, whatever. So he goes there and goes to Bespin Cloud City. So he gets there, and then he kind of sneaking around. He has to figure out what's going on, and he kind of sees Leia and tries to rescue her. And then Leia's like, Luke, it's a trap. Luke, it's a trap. Luke doesn't listen to this for whatever reason. And what else? Then he goes into we see that Han gets interrogated. It's really weird. This is a machine. It doesn't touch him. It just kind of sparks. And we see Han go like, So we don't really know what was going on there. Anyway, then Vader leaves the interrogation room and tells Lando like, oh hey, by the way, you know how I said I would let everyone go and I just wanted Luke Skywalker? Yeah, I'm altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. And Lando's like, this deal is getting worse all the time. Did I talk about Lando enough? Billy D. Williams, he's so great as Lando. Like, it's just, that's the only character he plays anymore. I think he did Lando, probably a few other things before that, and like the Colt 45 commercials, a beer commercial. But other than that, he really isn't known for that much. So anytime there's any new Star Wars thing that involves Lando, he's just like, yes, I will voice Lando. Even like Lego cartoons, he does the voice of Lando. Any obscure Star Wars video game, the voice of Lando is going to be Billy D. Williams. He is the only guy who like voices Lando. It's crazy. So anyway, what else happened? So Lando's cool. Boba Fett's there. Boba Fett does not say like much of anything in this movie, but he's just cool. So anyway, oh geez, Empire. What happens next? So we're down in the carbon freezing chamber. So basically, we find out that Vader wants to kidnap Luke and take him before the Emperor. So he takes Han Solo, freezes him in carbonite. Now this is the thing that they use to store stuff on Cloud City. They have this big block and they just put stuff in it. But they've never tried freezing a human before in it. So they just take Han, because, I mean, Vader doesn't really care what happens to Han, and puts him in carbonite. It's just like, hey, Boba Fett, Jabba's looking for him, right? Yeah, you can take him to Jabba if you want. And Boba's like, sure, cool, I'll do that. So anyway, then they freeze Han Solo in carbonite. And right before this is the greatest scene. Because I forgot to mention, Han Solo and Leia are in love now. That just kind of happened while they're on the Millennium Falcon. They had this very intimate scene where they like made out and stuff, and C-3PO interrupted them. So that was kind of funny. Anyway, so they're in love now, and Leia says, I love you. And Han was supposed to say, I love you too, but he makes it better by just saying, I know. And that's the last thing he says before being frozen. Now, also a fun fact, that was supposed to kill Han Solo. He was supposed to be dead. That was supposed to be like it. That was supposed to be the last thing for his character. Because Harrison Ford was like, I'm kind of done with these movies. I don't really want to do them anymore. But George convinced him to show up for the last one. And was like, fine. So, yeah, he wanted to die. He got his wish in episode 7. Anyway, so that's Han Solo for you. He gets frozen. They try to rescue him from Boba Fett, but they failed at. And anyway, then Lando kind of like says, I'm back on your side now. And Chewbacca's really mad at him. And so is Leia. But somehow they end up working with him anyway. So anyway, Luke is here now. He's running around. And eventually he gets down to the carbon freezing chamber, where Vader is waiting for him. And they duel. And Vader tries to get him into the carbon freezing chamber to turn him into carbonite, to like capture him. But that doesn't work. So their duel just keeps going. They go in this hallway. And we see that Vader is way, way more powerful than Luke, which is just really cool. Vader totally defeats Luke. Luke is not ready to fight Darth Vader. So, I mean, he still does fairly well in the fight, but Luke really just gets overpowered, and Vader just kind of toys around with him the whole time. Anyway, we eventually get to the point where we're on that little, like, bridge thing, and we get to the end. Vader chops off Luke's hand, right? He goes, da 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 dun, and then Vader's like, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. And Luke's like, he told me enough. He told me you killed him. So yeah, Luke's lost his hand and his lightsaber. He's just kind of sitting there with his hand like this, just kind of doing one of these things. Anyway, so then he's just kind of like on the edge, hanging off of the edge of this thing, and Vader is like, "No, I am your father." The greatest moment in any movie ever. The greatest plot twist of all time. It's so amazing. Oh my goodness, this scene is just iconic. Everyone quotes it wrong. People say, "Luke, I am your father." Like the thing is, another thing about Star Wars, you can just say, "Luke, I am your father," and everyone will know what you're talking about. Doesn't matter if they've seen Star Wars or not. Everyone knows what that means. Holy crap! So the helmet gets kind of sore on my head. After all, you don't care. Anyway, so what's going on next? Dude, what time is it? 12:52. I can keep going. I can keep going. Okay, so greatest moment ever. Greatest plot twist. You see, the fun thing about this was that when it was filmed, again, James Earl Jones does a voiceover. The actual actor in the suit is the one that delivers all the lines for filming. Then they just change edit in post. So the original one was that the original line when everyone was on set filming it, the actor for Darth Vader said, "Obi-Wan killed your father." So that's what everyone on set saw, and they're like, "Oh, dude, well, that's crazy." But the thing is, that's what just everyone thought. George Lucas specifically told Mark Hamill, "Hey, he's gonna say this thing, but I'm actually gonna have the actual voice say that Vader is your father." So Mark Hamill was like the only one that knew, plus George and plus James Earl Jones. So only like three people, and probably like the writers and a few other people, probably knew about this that George told. But very few of them actually knew this. Most people working on the movie, and obviously all the audience, didn't know this. So in the theater, when they actually premiered the movie, Mark and George were Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford were sitting next to each other. So Mark Hamill told the story in an interview. They were watching the movie, and when it got to that scene, Harrison leaned over and said, "Hey kid, you didn't tell me that." So that's just a funny detail. But really, most of the cast and crew did not know that that reveal was coming. So it's just amazing. It was done so well. Such a build up to this crazy thing. Like, oh my gosh, Luke is the son of Darth Vader? What? That's crazy. He's this. How is that even gonna work? That, and then for years, it wasn't because again, this came out in 1980. Return of the Jedi didn't come out till like 83, I think. People had to wait years sitting on this piece of information. Imagine like sitting for 3 years, sitting on this huge reveal of Luke being Vader's father. Now, Star Wars has tried to do this multiple times over. Like with the sequels, they tried to have like they wanted to set up like, oh, Rey's parents are going to be a big mystery. They want I think that's what they're trying to do in Force Awakens. They wanted to have something big, and then Episode 8 kind of threw that away with her parents being nobody, which I personally liked. But again, it just couldn't I don't know, because then when they try to do the reveal of, oh, she's Palpatine in Episode 9, it just falls flat. It doesn't feel special. But the reveal in the new and it's just so iconic. And again, that's the way this movie ends. It ends kind of sad. The bad guys win. There are very few movies where the bad guys win at the end of the movie. Now, the rebels are still around, right? Luke man just falls down a pit. Now, Luke survives this. I don't know how. Falls down a bottomless pit. Somehow he's falling straight down. Gets sucked into a tube, like a little fun swirly slide. Falls, and then he's just sitting in there. Then that opens up below him. Just conveniently on the spot where he stops, there's an opening. And he falls down again and just hangs on to like this antenna that's like hanging from the bottom of Cloud City. Anyway, then Lando, Chewbacca, R2, and 3PO are on the Millennium Falcon flying around, and Leia just kind of senses with the Force that Luke is calling out to her. It's crazy. We get the first like idea that Leia might have Force powers. So anyway, then they turn around and they go back. They rescue Luke. Lando reaches out and catches Luke and saves him, despite the fact that these two have never met. But whatever. Anyway, so they save him and they take him away, and then as they're leaving, they're leaving Cloud City on the Star Destroyer. They kind of fly next to it, and I forgot to mention that the Millennium Falcon used to be owned by Lando Calrissian, and Han won it in a gambling game. So now Lando's flying the ship that he used to own. Anyway, so they're flying past the Star Destroyer, and Luke and Vader are kind of calling out to each other in the Force. They can talk to each other, and they're like, "Dude, what the heck? Like, you're my dad?" And Vader's like, "Yep, I'm your dad." So anyway, again, that's just kind of messing with that. Anyway, we get back to the rebels, and they somehow escape because oh yeah, they're like, "Ah, crap, the hyperdrive isn't working because of the Empire sabotaged the ship, so it wouldn't work." But somehow R2 actually knows what to do. He repairs the hyperdrive himself, and they get away. And then Vader is really mad because for like the 10th time this movie, the rebels get away from the Empire. So anyway, yeah, they get away. They go back to the rebel fleet. Luke gets all healed up, gets a new robot hand, which is pretty sick, honestly. And so yeah, he just kind of looks off at the galaxy. But again, the way this movie ends, it ends like sad. Like there's still hope for the next movie, but it's just it ends with the bad guys winning, and it's like, what? You're just gonna leave us with that, George? What the heck? So now, anytime any movie or TV show takes a dark turn for like in a series, any like movie series or TV series, anytime it's like a dark turn, it's called The Empire Strikes Back. That's how like insane this movie is. Anytime any like movie or TV series takes a dark turn, it's called, oh, the show did an Empire Strikes Back. Okay, we're about 2 hours in. I hate to pause again, but I really have to go to the bathroom, so I will be back in just a minute. All right, I'm back. Sorry. Basically, we're gonna talk about Jedi now. I just think I'm gonna get a refill of water. Have I ever told you about Kirkland water? It's amazing. It's like the greatest water ever. So anyway, there we go. There we go. Okay, so water. It's amazing. You should totally drink water, like all the time. So there we go. So anyway, we're gonna talk about Jedi now. Now, see, Return of the Jedi is definitely the weakest movie out of the original trilogy. Empire Strikes Back is the best. A New Hope is my favorite. But Jedi just has like my favorite moment in Star Wars, that being the end of it. So it's weird. Every movie has something of value in it for me. Delicious Kirkland water. Look this. It's got minerals added for taste. Dude, that's so cool. Anyway, so Return of the Jedi is a movie. It came out in 1983, and it's the finale of Star Wars. No other movies come after this one, I'm sure. Anyway, George Lucas, had to make a finale to his trilogy. Now, again, I talked about this in The New Hope when I was talking about that. Basically, George Lucas planned out the entire original trilogy, and he had some ideas for the prequel trilogy. But his entire script that he wrote back in the 70s was the original trilogy. The whole original trilogy. He just shrunk it down just for A New Hope, and just did the first part, and that's A New Hope. Second part was Empire, and the last part was Jedi. So he finally gets around to making this movie he had planned from the very beginning. Kind of. I think he changed a few things and added a few things. I mean, we can't know for certain, but yeah. So anyway, we get to Jedi. This movie opens with does it open on Tatooine, I think? Or no, it opens with the Empire. So we start out, we found out that now the Empire is back. They're building a second Death Star. Han is still captured, but so we're gonna have to go find him. But the Empire is building a second Death Star. So we start by seeing a Star Destroyer. All right, and we see the Death Star. It's being built again. They're making another one because they couldn't come with anything more original than that. Anyway, so the Death Star is being built, and it's not done yet. We see that it's got like holes in it. It's not. It looks like this. Look at my mouse pad. Here you go. The Death Star. Ta-da! This is what it looks like. So anyway, that's pretty cool. What time is it? 1:10. Jeez, we've been going for an hour and 57 minutes on this recording. That's pretty sweet. We're almost at the 2 hour mark. I think I can go longer. I think I can keep going. I'm starting to lose my voice, but that's fine. My back hurts a little bit, but that's fine. Anyway, so what else? Where was I going? Okay, so Death Star, right? The Death Star is being built, and it's pretty sweet. So Vader shows up in the Death Star. The guy in charge of it is like, hey, so construction is, well, it's going, but we're not going that fast. Things are kind of difficult with this. And Vader's like, dude, pick up the pace. The Emperor himself's going to be there. And dude's like, what? The Emperor? He's coming here? We will double our efforts. So that's pretty cool. The Emperor is going to show up on the Death Star. So we got that coming later in this movie. Anyway, also a cool thing I noticed, when Darth Vader shows up, we see like a few TIE fighters kind of flying around and like a couple stormtroopers are lined up. But then when the Emperor shows up, we have way more TIE fighters that are flying around and way more stormtroopers in the hangar. Again, just a small detail that I really like. It's very cool. So anyway, we'll get to the Emperor arrival later. But for now, Vader's just kind of there on the Death Star. And we go back to Tatooine. So we're on Tatooine, and R2 and C-3PO are kind of just wandering the desert. And they show up at Jabba's palace. So basically, we don't really know what's going on. Luke has an entirely overly complicated plan. So basically, Luke has a plan. He's going to get Han Solo back. So he sends off R2 and C-3PO to go to Jabba's temple. He just doesn't tell them why. He just kind of like says go and gives R2 a message on a hologram. So he tells them to go off, and also apparently in the weeks before he had Lando go undercover and disguise himself as one of Jabba's guards and just hide in there. I don't know why he couldn't just have Lando steal Han, but whatever. So he needs the droids to go there. The droids go there, and then they say Luke leaves a hologram saying, hey Jabba, I'm gonna give you these droids. Please give me Han Solo back." And Jabba's like, "No, but I'm gonna take the droids anyway." So good job, Luke. That part of the plan went well. So now they're just at Jabba's palace, and then Leia shows up, disguised as a bounty hunter, to be like, "Hey, here's Han. Here's Han Solo. Here's Han Solo's friend Chewbacca. Here he is." And Chewbacca's like, "Okay, sweet," and takes Chewbacca. So great. Now Luke has gotten 3 of his friends kidnapped, plus Han, who was already kidnapped. So that's actually 4. But anyway, then Leia sneaks up, releases Han from carbonite, and since the guy has been frozen in stone for like 3 or 4 years now, he's kind of messed up and he can't see anything. Sure, and somehow Leia knows this. She's just like, "Oh yeah, your vision will return in time. You have hibernation sickness." Despite the fact that in the new Empire we established that no one has ever been frozen in carbonite before, but somehow whatever. Anyway, so yeah, there's always plot holes in Star Wars. I just want to make that clear. Everyone always complains about plot holes in like the new sequels. There's always been plot holes in Star Wars. Okay. Anyway, so what's going on? So this is pretty cool. Now Leia has been captured. So again, good job, Luke. That's another one of your friends captured. You got Luke released from. I mean, you got Han released from the carbonite, but now he's also been captured. So Luke finally shows up himself, and we see him in a dark robe. And we're like, "Ooh, what's going on? What's going on with Luke?" He's all mysterious. He's like this, and he kind of just does like this and this to the Gamorrean guards. And we're like, "Oh, is Luke bad now? Is Luke evil now?" So then we kind of show up, and Luke kind of shows up in the room and is just like, "Hey, Jabba, what's going on?" And then we get the greatest fan service that has ever been fan service ever. George Lucas is like, "Hey, you know how like a bunch of these Star Wars fans have a crush on Carrie Fisher? I'm gonna put her in a metal bikini." Yeah, that seems like a good idea. So anyway, the most gratuitous thing we've ever gotten in any movie ever is when George Lucas was like, "Yep, Carrie Fisher, you have to wear this bikini now." I mean, she went along with it, and she definitely rocked that bikini. But it's just so weird. What the heck, George? So anyway, that's kind of weird. And Luke's kind of looking at her like, "Dang, she kind of good looking though." Anyway, this will become important later. So anyway, this is all going on, and then Luke then falls through a pit, which we established early in the movie during the song and dance routine. That was added in the special edition, but it kind of exists in the original. Anyway, one of Jabba's dancers is a Twi'lek. Again, George Lucas obsessed with Twi'leks. It's really weird, but they are pretty hot though. Anyway, so Twi'leks, right? Jabba has a Twi'lek dancer, which just seems kind of weird to me. Like Jabba's a giant slug man. Like if he's a member of a slug species, why does he find like humanoid species attractive? Shouldn't he find like slug species attractive? How does he find like a Twi'lek girl dancing attractive? Like I wouldn't find a giant slug girl attractive, so why would Jabba find a humanoid girl attractive? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. So then he gets upset because the dancer is like trying to pull on her train, trying to like get away. I don't know why. She just all of a sudden now decides she wants to leave her job as a dancer. I mean, she's a slave, but still, she tries to get away. Jabba like smashes down on this hammer, and then she falls. She falls into this pit. And again, this is just cool because Jabba the Hutt. We talked about him in a New Hope, and he was mentioned in Empire Strikes Back, but we haven't seen him up until now. Well, to be fair, they added him into A New Hope in the special edition changes, but again, that wasn't until after Jedi came out. So Jabba the Hutt was brand new in 1983 when this movie came out. So anyway, then we see that she falls into the pit, and we don't really know what's down there, but we know there's something down there. There's something in this pit, and it eats her. So anyway, it's kind of scary. Then when Luke shows up, he falls into the same pit, and we're like, "Ah, crap, what's gonna happen?" And we get the reveal of this big monster, this Rancor, that's gonna eat Luke. And Luke doesn't have his lightsaber with him. He loses it, cause what did happen to it? Oh no, R2 has it. So anyway, Luke doesn't have his lightsaber with him, but he's just kind of down there, right? And he has to fight with like a bone. He grabs like a bone and wedges it between the teeth of the Rancor, and then he gets away, and then he kind of throws a rock at the door, runs in the door, and then it falls down on the neck of the Rancor, and the Rancor dies. And then we get like one of the funniest things to me. There's like a random guy, like the handler, I guess, of the Rancor, who just sees that the Rancor is dead, and it's like this fat guy. He just starts crying. Like, the Rancor was his best friend. This monster that eats people was his best friend, and Luke just kills him. He just kind of he just starts crying, and like one of his friends starts like to console him, pats him on the shoulder, and Luke's just like, okay. So good job, Luke. You just killed the man's best friend. Anyway, so Luke then goes up and now he meets Han, and he's like, hey, cool. So now they're brought in front of Jabba, and they're like, Jabba's like, all right, you guys have really been annoying me. We're all gonna go on my sail barge, and we're gonna throw you in the Sarlacc pit. So good job, Luke. Your plan is going amazing right now. So anyway, now everyone's on this sail barge, and Boba Fett's there because I don't really know why Boba Fett is there. Anyway, so they're all on here, and they're about to be executed. Luke's about to get pushed off the plank and into the Sarlacc pit, which is this tentacle monster thing with giant teeth that lives in the desert, apparently. Anyway, so Jabba wants them all to get thrown in there. So everyone's there. Leia, is still in her bikini next to Jabba the Hutt. Again, why? How does he find women attractive? He's a giant slug man. Anyway, whatever. So, then we have Lando is also on the sail barge he's on the skiff speeder with Luke and Chewbacca and Han's there. And so yeah, also R2 and C-3PO are on the big sail barge. So what happens? Luke, R2 somehow shoots the lightsaber up, and Luke catches it and goes da 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 da. So that's pretty cool, right? The thing is, like, Luke has a green lightsaber now, which is sweet. We haven't seen a green lightsaber, so everyone in the theater is like, whoa, what the heck does that mean? We've only seen blue and red lightsabers. What does a green one mean? But we kind of figured Luke's probably still the good guy. Anyway, the reason it's green, it was actually supposed to be blue, but because of the fact that the scene is, shot in, like, the desert with a blue sky, you really couldn't see the lightsaber that well. So they're like, what if we just made it green? So fun fact, that's the reason why green lightsabers exist. Just because it looked better in the scene. They were like, let's just make it green. Green's a good guy color, I think. So, yeah, there's that. And it's pretty sweet. It looks really cool. And Luke's, running around. There's also a scene where he kicks a dude. He kicks a dude, but you can really see that he isn't actually kicking a dude. He just kind of kicks, and there's like this much of a difference between Luke's kick and the guy's face, but the guy's face goes back. Again, just a funny thing, because obviously Mark Hamill wasn't actually gonna kick that guy, because that would be bad. But because they're just actors, but still, it's just funny. Anyway, also, Boba Fett dies in the stupidest way possible. He flies down to the sail barge, and wraps a little string around Luke. Luke easily escapes this, and then Han, who is still blind at this point, somehow grabs a stick and hits it into Boba Fett's jetpack. This sends him flying. He hits the side of the sail barge and falls in the Sarlacc pit and dies. Now, obviously, he doesn't die because he comes back in Book Boba Fett. But for years, this was the canon way that George Lucas killed off this fan favorite character. Because think about it, for 3 years after Empire Strikes Back, fans were in love with Boba Fett. All they wanted was more Boba Fett. He actually made his debut appearance in the Holiday Special, which came out before Empire Strikes Back, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, so Boba Fett sold all these action figures. The most popular bounty hunter, one of the most popular selling action figures in the history of any action figure ever, was Boba Fett. George Lucas kills him off in 5 minutes, right? What the heck? So Boba Fett fans were very upset with George Lucas for a while after that. But anyway, so this whole thing happens, and then it all ends by Leia wrapping her chain around Jabba and strangling him and killing him, and then she gets away, and they all get on the speeder and they all leave, and then Jabba's sail barge blows up, and yeah, pretty cool action sequence. I just don't like it. I really don't like the whole first act of Return of the Jedi. It's just boring to me. The whole thing makes no sense. Why did Luke go through this whole roundabout thing? Why didn't he just kill if he was just gonna kill Jabba in the end? Why didn't why didn't he just go kill him at his palace? Why did we have to go through this whole getting captured and then I don't know. It seems dumb to me. Anyway, so that whole thing happens and they go back and Luke again leaves all his friends to go talk to Yoda, who is dying apparently. And it's revealed that Yoda is 900 years old, which is a pretty cool reveal. So we know that Yoda, we already kind of figured Yoda was old and wise. We didn't know he was that old though. So anyway, then as Yoda's dying, he says, "Luke, there is another Skywalker." And you can't really tell what he's saying, but he says there is another Skywalker. So he's just what the heck? Then Force Ghost Obi-Wan shows up and just drops all the big reveals on him. So he's first off, Luke is hey, so is Darth Vader my dad? Yep, he is. Right? And so basically he just addresses all the questions that the audience wants to know in this one scene. So he's is Vader my dad? And Obi-Wan's yep. So then he's okay, why don't you just tell me that? And he's well, I told you that Vader betrayed and murdered your father, which is true from a certain point of view because Anakin turned into Darth Vader, who like killed Anakin metaphorically. It's like, dude, you just lied. Just say you lied. So, and fun fact: if you ever want to get out, if you ever lie about something, just say what I told you was true from a certain point of view. Easy way to get out of any lie. Anyway, so what else happened? Then he's also like, oh, by the way, you have a sister. I should have mentioned that. I knew that, like, from the beginning, but I just thought I'd mention it now. And Luke's like, what? Leia? I mean, to be fair, he doesn't know any other female characters. There are really no other female characters in the original trilogy, besides, like, Mon Mothma. So anyway, like, but we don't even see her until later in the movie. So basically, Luke, he's like, oh, I have a sister and it's Leia? What the heck? You could have not. You could have told me that earlier. I already kissed her like 3 times. This is weird, bro. They might have even had sex. You could have told Luke that they were siblings. What the heck, man? Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of weird. Good job, Obi-Wan. Really messed that one up. So then Obi-Wan just talks with Luke for a bit, and he's like, hey, you have to kill your dad. And Luke's like, I don't want to kill my dad. I can turn back to the dark side. And Luke's like, well, guess you are our last hope then. You suck. And he's just super mean to Luke. I don't know. Jedi kind of suck. I don't know if you noticed this, but the Jedi suck. They're really terrible people. Anyway, so then Luke goes off, meets his friends again. They're all on the Rebels, and they're all like, hey, remember the Death Star? Yeah, we got to do that again. So they have a new Death Star, except this time it's not done yet. So we can just fly in there and blow it up really easy. Only problem is that they put a shield around it, which is something they probably should have done the first time. Anyway, so it's down the planet, so we have to sneak in there and blow up the shield. Anyway, we got this information from some Bothan spies, and many Bothans died to bring us this information, is what Mon Mothma says. And then we also are introduced to Admiral Akbar, another iconic character. He looks like a fish, and he talks funny. He's like, we have to stop the rebels. I mean, we have to stop the Empire from building this Death Star. It's just funny. Another fan favorite character is Admiral Akbar. So anyway, then we go down to the planet Endor, where this is like the forest moon, and the Empire is building the Death Star around this planet in orbit, and they have the shield inner down on the planet. So, what's going on? Oh, the Emperor. So the Emperor finally shows up on the Death Star. Right, amazing. I love the Emperor so much. I think you know this if you know any of my videos, but I love the Emperor. So the Emperor, he's just so cool. He's amazing. He just shows up. I don't think I can do my Palpatine voice right now with how my voice is doing, but still, I love Palpatine so much. He's so fun. Anyway, so he shows up and he's just talking to Vader. They talk about like, oh man, we got to get this Death Star thing finished, and but then he's like, oh, everything is proceeding as I have foreseen. So basically, the Emperor is kind of plotting. He's all evil and stuff, right? Goes up to his office. He has a big spinny chair. He has a bunch of dudes in there, and he just like tells Vader to go wait on the command ship until he's ready to go. So then Vader goes and does that. And then the Rebels have actually stolen one of the Imperial shuttles, which is cool because we saw an Imperial shuttle at the beginning of this movie. Vader used it to go into Death Star, and also the Emperor used another one to actually get to the Death Star. So that's cool. And we see the Rebels have stolen one, so it's kind of flying by, and they're just hoping that they don't get caught. So Han is just like, just tell Chewbacca to fly casual. I don't really know what that means. But anyway, then Luke is like, ah, crap. Vader's on that ship. He's going to sense my presence. And Vader actually does, but he just lets him go. Because, I mean, he wants to kidnap Luke and bring him to the Emperor. So anyway, that's all going on. So then they just go down to the planet, and then they're going down their secret mission. And while they're doing this, they're kind of just wandering around the planet. They find out there's some biker scouts. These guys they're stormtroopers, but they have different armor, and they ride these speeder bikes. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, they have to chase them because the speeder bikes obviously saw them, and they can't let the Empire know that they're there. So Luke and Leia jump onto some speeder bikes and chase after them. We get a really cool action sequence of them going around speeder bikes through the trees. It's really fun. Then what else? Oh no, my water. Okay, so they ride around the speeder bikes and all that, and then yeah, so they're just having a good time. Han also does this scene where he tries to sneak up on one of the scout troopers, but he steps on a twig, and the guy hears it and turns around. It's just funny. And then so anyway, they just kind of wander around for the forest a bit more. They lose track of Leia. She gets lost, and they're looking around for her. And while they're looking for her, they get trapped in a big like sack that like lifts them up into the sky, because Chewbacca just sees a big pile of meat on a stick, which is obviously a trap, but Chewbacca just grabbed it anyway, and then they all get captured. And Han's like, "Great, Chewie, always thinking with your stomach." So just another funny line. Anyway, then they get captured by. Then finally, there's a bunch of these little tiny teddy bear things, called Ewoks, and they're kind of scary. Like they're kind of cute when you don't think about it. But once you learn more about them, they're awful. I hate Ewoks so much. Anyway, these little cute little teddy bears all have like spears, and they're all like kidnapping them. And our heroes are just like, "What the heck is this?" Anyway, then C-3PO gets up, who's shiny and golden, and all the Ewoks are like, and C-3PO's like, "I believe they think I'm some sort of god," and and then Han's like, "Well, why don't you use your divine intervention and get us out of this?" And then C-3PO says, "It's against my programming to impersonate a deity." Like, what? So you're telling me that whoever programmed C-3PO was like, you know what? I should add a line of code in here that says he's not allowed to pretend to be a god. Like, that was an issue? You had an issue where a droid was pretending to be a god? This has happened? Anyway. Also, another thing I'd like to mention, there are a couple times where stuff like this happens, and people are like, what the heck, why would Anakin program that into C-3PO? Fun fact, now in the prequels it's revealed that Anakin built C-3PO, but people miss the fact he didn't program C-3PO. He just found a bunch of scrap parts of a protocol droid and put them back together. So someone else programmed C-3PO. He's probably manufactured like all the other droids. It's just he was put together by Anakin, who found him in a junkyard. So just want to clarify that point. Anyway, so what was I saying? So anyway, yeah, they get taken back to the Ewok village, and the Ewoks are worshiping the golden rod, golden man C-3PO. They're worshiping him, and then they all the other ones are just kind of kidnapped, and they're gonna eat them. And I find out that also Leia met one of the Ewoks named Wicket, and they're friends now. So they're just kind of hanging out, and they what do they do? So they're at their village, and Leia just kind of shows up, and they're like, "Leia, what the heck are you doing here?" And Leia tries to tell the Ewoks, "Hey, can you stop? Can you?" Because Luke and Han are on being all tied up, and they're gonna eat Han. They start to light him on fire, and I forgot about bad feeling about this. Yeah, this is where Han says his line. I have a bad feeling about this. This is a line said in almost every Star Wars movie and some of the expanded stuff. It's just a fun line. This character will say, "I have a bad feeling about this," or "I have a really bad feeling about this," "I have a very bad feeling about this." Some sort of that thing. In Rogue One, K2SO says, I have a bad feeling about it," and they stop him. In Solo, Han says, "I have a really good feeling about this." And I think a couple of times it's changed up a bit. Also in Episode 8, it's BB-8 who says it, who goes beep, boop, beep, beep, beep. And then Poe's like, "Happy beeps, buddy." And then Leia says, "I'm with the droid on this one." Anyway, so that's the story of I have a bad feeling about this. But again, it's just another Star Wars line you can say in your everyday life. Star Wars fans will be like, I see what you did there. But you can just say, "I have a bad feeling about this." So, there you go. Anyway, my voice. It's going now. It's going. I can keep going, though. We've passed the 2 hour mark. I've at least gone further than I thought I could. So we're going to keep going. What else? So, now that they're captured by the Ewoks, Luke tells C-3PO, like, "Hey, just tell the Ewoks that if you don't let us go, you're going to get angry and use your magic." And C-3PO's like, "I'm not magic. What the heck am I supposed to do?" And Luke is like, "Just tell them." Because obviously, C-3PO is a protocol droid. I forgot to mention this. He can speak like 14 million languages, and apparently one of them is this primitive Ewok language. So he's able to talk to them and tell them to, like, "Hey, release him." Ewoks don't listen to him. So anyway, then Luke just kind of uses the Force while he's tied up and makes C-3PO float and spin around. And all the Ewoks are like, magic. So they let him go. So another fun scene. And then the Ewoks listen to C-3PO as he tells them the story. This is a really cool scene, because C-3PO is talking in the native language, but he's kind of just telling the story of the past 2 movies. And we kind of hear, like, the sound effects that C-3PO is making. He makes sound effects like the Death Star blowing up, and, like, the giant walkers on Hoth and all this stuff, and all the events that led to where they are today. And then after that, all the Ewoks are like, "Yay," and they welcome them into their tribe. So, another just cool scene. I like it. So anyway, now we're back to some other stuff that's going on. Not really much happens in the middle of this movie. It's pretty boring. Anyway, then, Luke talks with Leia, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, we're siblings. I thought you should know that, because it was pretty awkward when we kissed that time. But yeah, we're siblings." Then Leia just drops the line, I know. Somehow I've always known." It's like, huh? If you've always known, why'd you kiss him 3 times? What the heck, Leia? Anyway, so then Luke leaves, because he's like, "I need to go confront my dad, who's Darth Vader, by the way. Did I mention that? So yeah, your dad is also Darth Vader then. And Leia's like, what the heck, man? This is weird. He like tortured me in the first movie. What's going on? Anyway, so that's going on now, and then Luke leaves, and then Han shows up and tries to be like, hey Leia, what's going on? Are you still with Luke? And then she's like, ah, shut up. I don't want to talk to you. I don't know why she's like this. And Han's like, geez, women, am I right? Anyway, and then they just hug. She's just like, hold me, and they have a close moment. But Han still has no idea what's going on. He's just very confused because women. Anyway, so then Luke goes off and just surrenders himself to the Empire, and like an officer is just like, hey, this rebel surrendered himself to us. Thought you might be interested in that. And Vader's like, dude, this is Little May's son. Anyway, then they have a chat, and Vader's like, dude, you made your own lightsaber. This is pretty sweet. And then they talk, and Luke is like, hey, so you're my dad, so that means that you're probably a good guy somewhere in there. So can you just be a good guy? And Vader's like, sorry, son, I'm already gone. Which again, it's just kind of like, oh, because it's like it wasn't just like, no, I'm evil. I'm never gonna stop being evil. It's just it's too late for me, son. You can't save me. It's just so sad, and it's like, oh, like even Vader's given up on himself. He doesn't believe he can be saved, but his son does. It's so beautiful. Oh my goodness, so much. Again, the end of this movie is where Return of the Jedi starts to get really good. It goes from being extremely mid to being the best thing ever. Anyway, so then it's just going along. Everything's so great in this. And what's going next? So now we're back to the Rebels. They have to figure out how to get into the Imperial base. So they sneak in this base, and Han tries to do the trick again. He like taps the stormtrooper on the shoulder. The guy looks this way, and Han runs that way. Classic trick. Anyway, so then the stormtrooper like chases after him, and then he goes around the corner. And there's a ton of rebels that are all pointing guns at him. So another funny scene. Anyway, then they get into the Imperial base, and they start to plant bombs around the base. But at this, and then so that now we're cutting back to Vader and Luke. They've been brought up to the Death Star, and they're now on the meeting with the Emperor, right? And that's at this point they kind of talk, and Vader, and just so many iconic lines. Palpatine's just like, yes, I'm going to turn you to the dark side, and you're going to be evil now. And Luke's like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be evil. Anyway, also at this time, we have the rebels that are down the planet. We also have the whole rebel fleet who is now approaching the Death Star because they're going to do the big invasion. The idea is that the shield's going to be shut down so then they can attack the Death Star. But they don't know that the Empire is waiting for them. So basically, Lando is flying the Millennium Falcon again with the co-pilot Nine Num, who's just this random character. He's super fun though. Fun fact about Nine Num, he speaks Kikuyu, I think that's how you pronounce it. Basically, this is the native language of Kenya, which is just a real language. So it sounds alien to most audiences, but it's just a native African language. So any audience members who recognize this language are just like, what? This alien guy is speaking my language. What the heck? That's so cool. So, fun fact for you. Water. Oh, dude, the recording was just 2. That's so cool. Anyway, so basically Vader is like, hey, you know your rebels down on the planet? Excuse me, I'm sorry. You know the rebels down on the planet? Yeah, I know what's going on. It was I who allowed the plans to fall into the hands of the rebels. I orchestrated everything, you idiot. So then Luke is like, ah, crap. He's like, I know exactly what's going down on the planet. Your friends are about to be captured. And then as he says that, they get captured. And it's like, ah, crap. And your rebel friends are walking to a trap. So it's like, ah, crap. They've been cornered. They've been set up. Everything was everything was proceeding as the Emperor foresaw. And basically the idea is, got your friends captured. Whole rebel fleet's about to get blown up because I just had a bunch of Star Destroyers that were hiding. Now they're showing up. Now they're blowing up the fleet. Everything's going wrong for you, Luke. If you just kill me, hey, just try and give in to your anger. Kill me. Just saying. Maybe you can try and do that. So the Emperor is amazing. Anyway, then Luke finally caves in and tries to attack him, but Vader stops him. And then we get the scene where the lightsabers kind of cross, and then Palpatine's like, because yes, Luke is giving into his anger. So then they fight. They go and they fight. Luke, in the middle of the fight, is like, hey, can we stop fighting? Can you be like a nice guy, Vader? And he's like, no. Throws his lightsaber. I mean, this fight is so amazing. Anyway, during this entire time, now there's a battle going down on the planet because the small band of rebels has been kidnapped. They're all like, they're all like this, and they've all been kidnapped by this massive Imperial army that just showed up. And then somehow all the Ewoks jump out of the woods, and start attacking all the Empire, and they start winning, because that makes sense. Good job, George. Again, I blame George for making Stormtroopers stupid, partly. He made them cool in the first 2 movies, but then this one he's just like, they're gonna get defeated by a bunch of teddy bears. Huh? Who came up with that? Now, to be fair, his idea was he wanted this to be like in reference to the Vietnam War. Not like a reference, but it's supposed to be like the Vietnam War. Endor is space Vietnam, basically. Because in the Vietnam War, you had this extremely militarized American military, right? The U.S. military in this country, in this very wooded, foreign country. We didn't really know what was going on there, but we were still losing the war to a bunch of, I mean, not really tribal, but still, less, they weren't as well equipped as the U.S. military. You had this massive army losing in a foreign land, and it was just really strange. And it had never happened before. So that's kind of what Endor is like in Star Wars. It's kind of a callback to the Vietnam War, which I mentioned before was kind of influential in the creation of Star Wars. So, because again, it was this idea of like, how did this big, huge, American kind of empire fall? So, like, how do they lose so badly in this conflict? So again, it's just interesting, and so there's that. Anyway, so the Endor battle is pretty cool. The one in space is better. The one on the ground kind of sucks. The one in space is really good, though. You got all the lasers and all that stuff. Anyway, then it's kind of revealed, like, hey, so the Rebel fleet's kind of already losing. You know, it'd be worse if I start taking out capital ships with this big laser. That's right, the Death Star is fully operational, baby. Pew. The Rebel ships are blowing up like crazy, and everyone's dying. And that's how, again, I forgot to mention that. That's how Vader kind of convinces Luke to start fighting. Anyway, amazing. The Death Star is fully operational. You thought it wasn't operational, but it is. Get pranked. The Death Star laser was the first thing that they completed as a prank. Anyway, so Vader got tricked, and then Admiral Akbar says one of the most iconic lines ever of "It's a trap." So another amazing Star Wars line right there. And so now the fight's going on between Luke and Vader. And eventually, the rebels get the upper hand down on the planet because Chewbacca managed to steal an AT-ST. And so anyway, that's going on. Then they enter the base, and so then they go in there, and then they plant all the bombs, and then they run out, and they blow up the shield generator. So now the shield is down. So now the rebels can actually begin the assault on the Death Star. And while this is going on, what happens? Then Luke and Vader are reaching the end of their fight. Luke's kind of like hiding in the shadows, and Vader's kind of looking for him. And he's kind of like using the Force to like, because his thoughts betray him. Apparently you can read people's thoughts with the Force. Anyway, then Vader figures out like, your sister. You have a twin sister. Wait, this means I have a daughter. This is sweet. Anyway, so then Vader's like, I'm going to turn her to the dark side if you don't turn to the dark side. And Vader's like, no! And Luke starts attacking him. Starts more aggressive than he did before. And the music is kind of getting more dark. And it's like, oh geez, Luke's actually kind of defeating Vader. That's great. But it's like, wait, oh god. He's just swinging over and over, and you see the anger on his face, and he's slicing up Vader, and oh my gosh, he chopped his hand off. Oh my goodness, Vader's defeated. He's on the ground. He doesn't have a hand. It's all metallic and robotic. Luke looks down at his own hand. It's metallic and robotic. Luke realizes what he's doing. He's becoming his father. Oh, it's beautiful. It's the greatest scene ever. Oh, it's so good. Again, and we just see this in this moment. Luke realizes, Jedi, Sith, screw it. Throws his lightsaber away. No. My God. He says, I am a Jedi, like my father before me. I'm not going to be a Sith. I'm not going to be a bad guy. I'm going to be a good guy. I'm going to save the galaxy. I'm going to do it all. Oh, man, he does it. Luke is amazing. He doesn't care about anything that came before. He just cares about his father when he has no reason to. His father has not done anything. There is no reason he should love his father. No logical reason. His father has not done anything for him his entire life. But just because he sees the good in his father, he sees it. He sees it through the Force. He does it all. He gives it all. He gives it all in this chance to save his father. And this moment is what something clicks. Something clicks in Vader. He gets up and he watches as the Emperor starts to electrocute his son. And it just clicks. He's like, you know what? Screw this. Picks up the Emperor, throws him down a pit. This last moment of sacrifice by Vader, right? He takes a lot of lightning during this. He is sacrificing himself. He's badly damaged. This one act of kindness, it doesn't redeem, it doesn't undo all the bad things he's done. It just shows his son. It's an intimate moment between him and his son that shows, yeah, there is still good in Vader. It was always there. It wasn't gone forever. Vader thought it was gone forever. Obi-Wan thought the light was gone forever. All the rebels thought that there was no redeeming Vader. Luke did, though. Luke saw the good in his father. And that's so powerful. He should have given up. By every logical thing, he should have given up, but he didn't. And, it's amazing. And then everyone, like, the prequels, they get into, like, the whole prophecy. Like, Obi-Wan, like, Vader was, fulfilling the prophecy of the strong Sith. I don't care about that, okay? What happened in this moment, Vader sacrificed himself to save his son. Because this one good deed does not undo all the awful atrocities he committed, as Darth Vader. It just shows that, he cares. There's still good in him. After everything he's done, there's one thing, he can do one good thing. And that's what it's all about, baby. You can change. You can become better. You can be okay. Doesn't matter what you did. You can repent, You can become good again. It's amazing. So powerful. Then Vader and Luke have this intimate moment and, takes off the helmet. We see Vader's face. It's all white and it's all scarred and whatnot. He may or may not have eyebrows, depending on which version of the movie you're watching. And then that's it. And then he dies. It's so sad. Anyway, so then Vader then Luke, takes him. The Death Star is now exploding because you see the Millennium Falcon flew into the middle of the Death Star and just shot missiles at it and blew it up. So now the Death Star is exploding. The rebels are kind of getting away, and boom, Death Star blows up. Luke escapes, goes back down to the planet, and everyone celebrates. That's the second time we blew up a Death Star and killed millions of Imperials. But woo, let's go. It's okay because we're the good guys. It was sad when millions of people died in Alderaan, but it's okay because they were bad guys in the Death Stars, whatever. Anyway. So, yeah, then they have a big celebration, the Ewok celebration in the Ewok village. Of the rebels celebrate the fact that the Empire is just defeated. Because apparently, the Emperor is dead and the second Death Star is gone. Forget the bazillion other Star Destroyers and other Imperial worlds that are still under control of the Empire. Nope, the rebels won now. So that makes sense. The Empire is just dead because the Emperor is dead. Okay. Anyway, so now that everything's over, whoop-de-doo, we all won. Anakin somehow gets to become a Force Ghost. Like what, you do one good thing, you get to become a Force Ghost? I don't know, whatever, sure. Anyway, so there's that. That's kind of wholesome. We get to see the Force Ghost of Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan. Luke gets to see them, and and he goes and parties with all his friends. And Luke and, I forgot to mention Han and Leia got to kiss, so they're together now, like, officially. Because the thing is, like, Han's like, when Luke comes back, I won't get in the way. All right, fine, you two can be together. And Leia's like, what? No, it's not like that. He's my brother. And they kiss. But then Han has, like, this confused look of, like, huh? What do you mean he's your brother? You kissed, like, 3 times. So, yeah, very weird. Anyway, so then, then they're together. And whoop-de-doo, it's the end of the movie. Yay, Ewoks. The Ewoks play drums on Stormtrooper helmet heads. The Ewoks ate Stormtroopers. The movie just dumps this piece of information on you and does not address it. It's just like, yeah, the Ewoks eat Stormtroopers. Huh? Is there any way Jedi? Oh, dude, my back. Oh, my back. My back. Spider-Man reference. Anyway, so what do we talk about now? We talked about the whole original trilogy. It's amazing. Anyway, so Star Wars was just Star Wars. It was 3 movies for the longest time, and then 1999 came around. Somewhere around in the 80s, George Lucas made the special editions, like late 80s, early 90s. We get a special edition where new special effects. He went back and changed things. I did a whole video talking about that. It was weird. And then he made the prequels. Ooh boy. So we have episodes 1, 2, and 3. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I don't like it. Episode 2, I don't like it. Episode 3, it's okay, I guess. It's the best of the original trilogy. People overhype Episode 3 way too much. People who say it's the best Star Wars movie are dumb. Alright, I'm just gonna outright say it. I love Episode 3. It's got so many quotable, funny meme lines, and it has some great lightsaber fights. But it is not the best Star Wars movie. You are wrong if you think it is. I'm just gonna outright say it. I don't care. Disagree with me. I don't care. There's no one watching this far into the video. If you're actually watching this and you're upset at me, screw you, alright? I don't care. I don't think Episode 3 is as amazing as it is. It was my favorite Star Wars movie at a time because of all the funny meme lines, but now I actually have good opinions and I understand that the original trilogy is much better. So anyway, the prequel trilogy. I went from being okay with it to thinking it was the greatest thing ever to hating it, and now I'm just kind of back to it's okay. So change. People change over time. I change over time. So the prequels, they're okay. All right. I will admit they were overhated when they came out because I mean it was basically just like Star Wars was this amazing thing, and George Lucas had to one up the original trilogy, and that was impossible. So he just made something that was kind of okay. Now again, George Lucas is great at world building. I already mentioned this. The world building of the prequels is amazing. We get to see more of the galaxy, what the galaxy was like before the Empire. It's amazing. That's all amazing. It's just George Lucas's clunky dialogue really shines through because in the original trilogy, he really had to work with other people, and for writing and special effects and all this stuff, he really had to rely on other people a lot. And all these people working together is what made the original trilogy so great. But then it was like, oh, George Lucas, he's so amazing. He made the original trilogy. Everyone loves George Lucas. Let's just make him make 3 movies all on his own. And pretty much George did all the work. He didn't intend to. He was just kind of planning on doing Phantom Menace, and then he'd have other directors do 2 and 3. But he just ended up doing them all himself, which means they all are very, very George Lucas. Going back to what Alec Guinness said, the dialogue was clunky in A New Hope. That was just more prevalent. You had noticed it more in the prequels, so that's why they were hated when they came out. That and Jar Jar Binks was also a big feature. So there's just a lot of things. CGI was better, but the movies rely very, very heavily on newer like CGI special effects. Everything's just kind of on green screens, which is cool, but you lose a bit of the magic that the original trilogy had by having all the little props and practical effects that they used. It just doesn't feel as special. So, I don't know, it's just kind of strange. You know, the feel of Star Wars was just different. It didn't feel as much like Star Wars. It was still Star Wars. It was just different. And that's why so many people didn't like it. But obviously the kids who grew up with it liked it because, the kids who grew up with the original trilogy are older now. They're all my age, and they all talk about how amazing the prequel trilogy is, whatever. So anyway, yeah, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's pretty good. I could explain the plot. I don't know it as well, but basically you have trade disputes going on. Jedi show up to try and figure out the trade disputes, and then they try to get killed by the Trade Federation. There's a mysterious guy who's obviously the Emperor, but I mean it's not specifically told. It's just like it's a mysterious hooded figure that's probably the Emperor. Anyway, um, then we have lots of stuff going on. There's a Queen of Naboo. She gets kidnapped by the Separatists. Well, they're not the Separatists yet. They're the Trade Federation, and they have these battle droids. And we have the Jedi Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. We have a young Obi-Wan. That's cool. As Master Qui-Gon. So then they kind of go around and do stuff, and and they go down the planet Naboo, which the Trade Federation is invading for some reason because trade deals. I don't know. Anyway, so then they go around in there. They rescue the Queen, and they need to take her to Coruscant so they can tell this Galactic Senate, like, hey, stuff's going on. Because apparently nobody knows that the planet Naboo is being invaded. You think this would be, like, news. But apparently the only way to tell them is to have the Queen go tell the Senate. I don't know why that's the only way anyone can figure that out, but whatever. Like, she can't just call them. She can't just do, like, a Zoom call from her ship being like, hey, Senate, I'm literally on the run from the Trade Federation. Can you guys, like, send support over here? No, she has to go there in person, apparently. Anyway, you see, the Star Wars galaxy is so advanced. They have all this stuff. They don't have simple things like phone calls. What the heck? Anyway, so then they're like, well, our hyperdrive is damaged. This R2 unit managed to repair our ship just enough to save us, so thanks, R2-D2. Good that you're here somehow. Anyway, so then they just go to the planet Tatooine, because apparently this is where everything important in the galaxy happens. It's where Luke's from. It's where Anakin's from. It's where the Jabba the Hutt's from. Everything important happens on Tatooine, this random desert planet that we're told is unimportant and dumb. Apparently everything important happens here. Anyway, so there's that. What else happens? Oh, I'm getting tired. Okay, so then they go down there. They find this magic kid Anakin, who's a slave boy, and they're like, yeah, he's magic. He might be the chosen one. What's the chosen one? I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, so then they're like, well, we need to get a hyperdrive. Then we meet Watto. Watto is a Jewish stereotype, which is kind of weird, George. Like, you got this guy with like kind of a scruffy beard, really big nose. He's like, money, It's like, geez, all right, chill out, man. Like, like what's with the Jew stereotype? That's kind of weird, George. Anyway, so we have this Watto character who apparently mind tricks don't work on him. That's new. So whatever, for whatever reason, we have a species that mind tricks don't work on. Anyway, so they try to mind trick him to give him a hyperdrive because apparently this random junk shop has the one hyperdrive that they need to repair their ship, and no other shop has a hyperdrive just this one shop. So anyway, instead of just buying it, he has credits to buy it, but apparently Republic credits don't work on this planet, and there's no currency exchange. Huh? Whatever. So anyway, they go through that whole thing, and what else happens? They do they go to then they're like, well, we're just gonna have this kid, Anakin kid. Apparently he's good at pod racing. We're just gonna gamble. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. That's the best way to make money is by gambling. We're gonna gamble it all on this one random kid, and he's gonna totally win the pod race that he's never won before. And he does, because Force. I don't really know why this particular pod race he wins. But anyway, so he does, because all the pod racers, literally all the other racers die, and so Anakin literally wins by default. So anyway, he wins. They get all the prize money. They're able to buy the hyperdrive, and also part of the deal was that the Jedi get to take the slave with him because Jedi like to take children for fun. Anyway, so they have Anakin now. They go back to the Jedi and they're like, hey, can we train this kid? He's like 9, and like, nah, it's too old. Huh? What do you mean? You have to start training Jedi from birth? What's up with that? So that's weird. Anyway, what do they do? Then they're like, that's weird. And Qui-Gon's like, well, screw you. I'm gonna train him anyway, because Qui-Gon doesn't like the Jedi Council, because the Jedi Council sucks. Anyway, then they just kind of go back, and the same thing happens in the Senate, where they're like, hey, so Naboo's under attack. Can we like have support? And they're like, but is it really under attack? Do you really need support? So that's kind of dumb. Anyway, we meet Senator Palpatine. Totally not evil. He's totally not trying to manipulate anybody. No, he's not evil. So anyway, he then he kind of is just manipulating stuff. And it's like, oh, this character named Palpatine, played by Ian McDiarmid, who's the same actor that played the Emperor. Yeah, don't worry, don't make that connection yet. It's a secret. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You're not supposed to know that this is Palpatine, that this is the Emperor. Okay, that's just kind of funny to me. Like, really, you seriously telling people didn't realize that in the Phantom Menace? Anyway, it's also just super obvious, like how he's just being evil. He's like manipulating the Senate, trying to get people to start a war. Anyway, so this whole thing happens. They go back to Naboo. They fight. They recruit the Gungans to help them fight. They fight off the droids. Whoop-de-doo, battle wins because Anakin just somehow gets in a spaceship, goes and flies up, and apparently none of the other spaceships, none of the other trained pilots are able to go inside the spaceship and shoot it and blow it up. Anakin does this by dumb luck, because that makes sense. Or the Force, because there's no such thing as like, I don't know. He blows up the ship, somehow gets out of there, and this random kid blows up the entire Trade Federation. Probably kills, like, there's a lot of droids, but there's also people, like, human lives on there. Anyway, this 9-year-old kid just killed, like, hundreds of people, and it's like a whoop-de-doo moment. Like, what the heck? That's kind of messed up. Anyway, so, then that, apparently all this was controlled by one ship. They have multiple ships in orbit, but only one of the ships controlled the entire droid army. That's stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you have one ship? You can't just be like, oh, all our droids just shut down. Okay, we'll just switch the command over to this ship. Why was it on one ship? That's so stupid. Anyway, so this scene is basically just Luke blowing up the Death Star, but it's just Anakin with blowing up the droid control ship. It's literally just the same thing over again. Anyway, people will be like, oh, Force Awakens just copied A New Hope. That's what they did. That's what George did in the Phantom Menace. It's what Star Wars does. Star Wars copies itself constantly. They just say, oh, it's poetry. It rhymes. Anyway, so there's what was I saying? So anyway, yeah, the droids are defeated now. Super easy. And then Anakin, is going to be a Jedi now. Also, I forgot to mention Duel of the Fates and Darth Maul entirely, because, let's be honest, Darth Maul is forgettable. It's cool that he's in Duel of the Fates, and it's cool that he comes back in the Clone Wars, but he's so forgettable in the movie, alright? Let's be real here. He's supposed to be scary and stuff. He doesn't do anything. He barely says anything. We just fight him, and then he dies. Well, he doesn't die. He gets chopped in half, and he comes back later. But basically, it's implied that he dies in the movie. They only changed it later and make him come back. Anyway, so that whole thing happens. Qui-Gon dies, and Obi-Wan has to train Anakin. And if you've seen the original trilogy, I'm sure this is going to go great. There's nothing wrong going to go here. So next up we have Attack of the Clones. Came out in 2002, which is the same year I was born. However, this movie came out, like, I think it's summer? I think it came out before I was born. It was like March or something. I don't remember when it came out, but I know it came out before I was born, because I was born in September of 2002. So, yeah, fun fact. I'm, like, just a bit younger than Attack of Clones. So, anyway, Attack of the Clones. I really don't know if it's better or worse than The Phantom Menace. They're both, like, pretty much equal. I go back and forth. Movie starts out with with Padme getting an assassination attempt. Because in the first movie, we established that she has some decoys. She still has a ton of decoys. Because apparently, like, no other senators get more assassination attempts than her. Apparently, everyone wants to kill her. And this is going to be a major plot point in this movie. Everyone wants to kill Padme. Right? So, but this is so weird. Palpatine, right, is, hiding in the shadows and stuff. He wants to kill Padme. So he gets Dooku to kill Padme. Dooku doesn't want to do it. He hires a bounty hunter named Jango Fett. He says, hey, I need you to go kill this senator. Boba Fett doesn't want, Jango Fett doesn't want to do it himself. He goes and gets this other one named what is her name? Zam Wesell. So he gets Zam Wesell to go do it. She doesn't want to do it herself. She sends a droid. The droid doesn't want to do it. The droid sends slugs. It's like, just shoot her. She's a senator. Just shoot her with a blaster. It's that easy. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so then this whole thing's going on. Anakin and Obi-Wan, Anakin's grown up now. And also, did I mention that Anakin and Padme were like kind of interested in each other? Despite the fact that Padme is like 14 and Anakin was like 9. It's kind of weird. They were kind of like into each other in the first movie. And now it's also weirder because they're grown up. And Anakin's like, and Padme is like, Annie? My goodness, you've grown. And Anakin's like, yeah, so have you. Grown more beautiful, I mean. See, the prequel writing sucks, alright? Everyone tries to defend this. It sucks. This is dumb writing. It's just bad. Now, I get it. Anakin's supposed to be socially awkward, so that's like the main defense we'll make. That doesn't excuse the fact that it's dumb, okay? Don't try and like, gloss over the fact that the prequel writing is dumb, okay? The dialogue is just, ugh. Anyway, it's funny, but it isn't good, alright? It's funny, but it isn't good. Just want to make that point clear. So anyway, what's up next? We have, stuff happens. The slugs that I mentioned earlier tried to kill Padme. Anakin goes in and somehow, like, slices them and, like, doesn't hurt Padme in this process. The slugs are, like, crawling on her body. He is somehow able to slice them with such precision that it slices the slugs in half without, like, slicing Padme's skin. Whatever. And Obi-Wan is just like, you know what? Jumps out the window after the droid, grabs onto the droid. Anakin then goes and grabs a speeder, and they chase after, and eventually they find the bounty hunter, right? And the thing is that this bounty hunter is about to tell him, like, oh, I was hired by Jango Fett, right? But the thing is, right before she can say that, Jango Fett shoots her with a dart that kills her. Why? Why a dart? Like, and then Obi-Wan takes this dart and is able to use it later. Like, does Jango want to be found? He has a gun, a blaster. A blaster does not leave a trace that can lead someone back to you. Like, just use the blaster. Just shoot her. Oh, whatever. So anyway, then Obi-Wan goes off and meets Dexter Jetson, the best character in the prequels. And he tells him, oh, this is from Kamino. Somehow he knows this. Whatever. Anyway, then Obi-Wan goes and is like, hey, I'm looking for a planet called Kamino in the Jedi Archives. Doesn't exist, apparently, because whatever. Also, the Jedi Council's like, hey, so we're going to have Anakin. He's going to protect Padme. Because we need a Jedi to protect her, because people keep trying to kill her. Anyway, Anakin is like a hormonal teenager, and he's really into Padme, but we like forbid love in the Jedi because it's bad and attachments are bad. But I'm sure putting them together will be fine. Like, we could assign any other Jedi that doesn't have an insane crush on her. But sure, I'm sure it's fine. Whatever. So anyway, they go off and they go to Naboo, Padme's home planet, to be safe, and then they fall in love. In the most awkward way ever. It's so bad. It's literally garbage, the way that Anakin and Padme fall in love. It makes no sense whatsoever. They have, like, no reason to fall in love, but they do because the story says they have to. Anyway, so that's all going on. What else? So then they just fall in love. Anakin delivers his I don't like sand line. It's kind of dumb. But somehow that makes them kiss. They immediately kiss after Anakin tells her he doesn't like sand. Whoa, okay, sure. And then Padme is like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. That was bad. And then Anakin later says stuff like, I'm haunted by the kiss you shouldn't have given me. What is going on, man? It's weird. So then this whole thing happens. Then Anakin has a vision of his mommy, because his mommy is dying. I think I forgot to mention his mom in the Phantom Menace. Anyway, so then they're like, we need to go to Tatooine. Padme is just okay with this, going back to Tatooine. Jeez. So then they do this. Just a second, man. Oh, my forehead. It's just so sore. The helmet kind of sucks when you wear it for a long period of time. Anyway, so they go back to Tatooine for some reason, and they meet the Lars family, Owen and Beru, because they're gonna die later. Anyway, so they meet them, and we find out that Shmi, Anakin's mom, married some other guy. So now Anakin has like half brother Owen. So I mean, it's still technically Luke's uncle, but still just kind of weird detail there. Anyway, so then we go off, and Anakin goes off to try and find his mom, who's been kidnapped by Tusken Raiders, but she dies, and then Anakin kills a bunch of Tusken Raiders, and he tells this to Padme. He's like, "Hey, I killed men, women, children, literally anyone. They were all pretty much defenseless. I slaughtered them all just because I was mad." And Padme's like, "Dang, that's kind of hot. Kind of into this kid. This is kind of hot. He killed a whole like, he committed genocide. That's kind of hot. I'm kind of into him." So what the heck, Padme? She has terrible taste in men. Anyway, so that whole thing's going on, and what else? So now they're in love because that makes sense. Anyway, this whole time Obi-Wan's been like trying to figure out this whole mystery. He goes to Kamino. He fights Jango Fett. Finds out about the clone army. That whole thing kind of doesn't really make sense because who commissioned the clone army? It's never really explained well. It's kind of explained in the Clone Wars, but again, not very well. That needs to be fleshed out more in some future Star Wars project. Anyway, then what happens? They do then Obi-Wan like finds Geonosis, goes there, kind of like sneaks around and finds Count Dooku, but then he gets kidnapped. So then Anakin and Padme have to go rescue him, and then they call the whole Jedi Order to show up, and then all the clones show up, and there's this huge battle in the arena with all these monsters running around, which is pretty cool, I guess. And they go off as a big battle on the ground between clones and droids, but it's literally just CGI army versus CGI army. There really is no stakes whatsoever. It's just, here's a battle, because battles are fun to watch, right? It's kind of boring. Like, it really is just this battle, this army versus this army. All the important stuff is happening between Obi-Wan Anakin and Count Dooku. Like, it's literally just the armies need to fight because armies need to fight for this to be a Star Wars movie. Anyway, then we have Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku. Pretty cool fight. Yoda shows up because apparently Anakin and Obi-Wan and Anakin are bad at fighting or something. Anyway, Yoda shows up, forces Dooku to retreat, and that was pretty cool. We got to see Yoda fight. You know, we didn't get to see that in the originals, but I mean, it really is just CGI Yoda going flipping and all over the place. So it's kind of dumb, but it's still kind of cool, I guess. Anyway, then Dooku was just like and makes the thing like fall on Anakin and Obi-Wan. Did I mention chopped Anakin hands off? That was kind of cool. Anyway, then Yoda like uses the Force to pick it up and save them, but Dooku gets away, and he has the Death Star plans for some reason. Why does he need the Death Star plans? Why are we having the Death Star already? Whatever. Anyway. So that's Attack of the Clones. Then Anakin and Padme get married in secret and probably have sex because Leia and Luke have to get born some way. So whatever. Anyway, it's now on to Revenge of the Sith. So Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, I do like this movie. I like this movie, but it's not as good as the prequel fans say it is. It's good. It's just not that good. I don't know why people worship this as like the greatest piece of cinema because it's good. It's just okay. It's better than the other prequels, which isn't saying much. So anyway, this movie starts off with Anakin and Obi-Wan. This is the best version of Anakin and Obi-Wan I think we see. In the prequels, in the first movie, in episode 2, we kind of see their relationship, but it just feels so awkward. This one, it feels more natural. Their relationship it feels right. I really like, especially in the opening of this movie. They just have so much fun banter between each other. It's great. We start off with this incredible action scene over Coruscant. It's amazing. I don't need to tell you how good it is. So we have all that going on. Then they go off and they somehow make it to Count Dooku's ship. Actually, it's General Grievous' ship, but Count Dooku was just there for some reason. And also the Chancellor's there, because the Chancellor got kidnapped. I don't know how. Well, I do know how he let himself get kidnapped, but everyone's just okay with this. Anyway, so the Chancellor's been kidnapped by General Grievous, who is a new character that this movie introduces. To be fair, he was in the 2003 Clone Wars series. That's where he was introduced. And that came out before Revenge of the Sith, so that's kind of cool, I guess. Anyway, there's that whole thing, and then that's actually kind of cool. The 2003 Clone Wars series came out between 2 and 3, and really does bridge the gap quite well. I think the newer Clone Wars series does a better job, but the 2003 Clone Wars is pretty cool still. Anyway, that's not canon anymore, though, unfortunately. Anyway, what was I gonna say? So, episode 3. They're at the ship. They spend a lot of time just running around the ship. Too long, I think. The original, like, uncut version of episode 3 was 4 hours. They had to cut it down. It's like, just because there's so much weird shenanigans, that they go around and on this ship. And just so many other times in this movie, there's just too much stuff going on. George Lucas, they let him go too far in a few places. Anyway, so they do this. They run around. They save the Chancellor. They fight Dooku again. And Anakin says, my powers have doubled since the last time I met Count. And Dooku's like, good, twice the pride, double the fall. Anyway, then Anakin chops both of Dooku's hands off and his head. And he's kind of like, that's kind of bad. And Palpatine's like, don't worry about it, man. You want revenge. That's fair. Remember what you told me about your mother? And the Sand People? Because apparently Anakin told Palpatine about this. Anakin and Palpatine are apparently best friends now. I don't know. I'm sure that won't go anywhere. So, also Obi-Wan is unconscious. Because, Obi-Wan's just really not good at lightsaber fights. Like, he somehow beats Darth Maul. But then, he loses against Count Dooku. He loses against Count Dooku again. And then he does manage to defeat Grievous and later Anakin. But, like, what the heck? I don't know. So, it's kind of weird. Obi-Wan's very inconsistent with lightsaber fights. He doesn't win all of them. He just wins one. He loses the ones that he should win, and he wins the ones that he shouldn't win. So, I don't know. Obi-Wan's just inconsistent. Anyway, they're, what was I saying? So now they're kind of trying to escape the ship. They meet General Grievous. General Grievous escapes, and they then crash the ship. The ship cracks in half, and they crash it down on the strip of the Coruscant. But not to worry, they're still flying half a ship. And then they make another happy landing, and yada yada yada. There's so many lines in this movie that just became memes. It's actually ridiculous. The ratio of memes to not memes in episode 3 is ridiculous. Almost every line is a meme. And that's why all the fans love it so much. So, again, don't get confused. The episode 3 is good because it's funny. The dialogue is funny. It isn't good, okay? Just want to make that point clear. It still has some cool stuff in it. Like, the Palpatine taking over the galaxy and all that stuff. That stuff is cool. It's good. But there's also a bunch of silly stuff in this movie. I want to make that clear. Anyway, so, what happens next? What time is it? It's 2 o'clock. Jeez. We've been going for almost 3 hours. Wow. That's pretty crazy. So anyway, episode 3. What was I talking about? Now, Anakin and Padme are in love. They have a couple love scenes. They're like, oh, we're so in love. It's boring. Anyway, skipping past that, Obi-Wan has to go off and defeat Grievous. This comes after we find out that Anakin wants to be promoted to a Jedi Master, despite the fact that this is an extremely unreasonable request, since he's only been a knight for like a very short period of time. To become a master should take much longer, but still he's like, I want to be a master now! I want to be on the council! And like, okay, we'll let you be on the council, but we're not going to let you be a master, okay? And he's like, that's stupid, I want to be a master, man, that's not fair. Anakin's annoying, alright? I don't like him. Anyway, Palpatine's like, yeah, Palpatine just continues to gaslight Anakin and thinking, like, you should be a master. You should tell them that you should be a master. I think they should let you be a master. Anyway, Anakin goes and meets with Palpatine. This scene, I can tell you though, should I do the entire tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise from memory? Okay, fine, I will. So anyway, Palpatine, I'll do it. Anyway, Anakin goes and talks to Palpatine, and he's like, hey, so like, they didn't let me become master. I'm so upset. They sent Obi-Wan to go find Grievous. Anyway, Palpatine just tells all his dudes to leave him. And so then he's just like, hey, Anakin, so did you ever hear of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And Anakin's like, no. And he's like, I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midichlorians to create life. He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. Wink, 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 wink. Anakin's like, you mean he could actually save people from death? And he's like, the dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities, some consider to be unnatural. Wink, 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 wink. So Anakin's like, well, whatever happened to him? He became so powerful, the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power, which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, and then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. If only you could find this apprentice, he could maybe tell you about how to save your wife. I mean, like, save someone's life. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. So, Anakin's like, how? And then he's like, what does he say? He says, is it possible to learn this power? And then he says, not from a Jedi. It's just like, it's just so painfully obvious to the audience, like, okay, we get it. It's Palpatine. He's evil. He's trying to convince Anakin that, like, it's just so painfully obvious. And the fact that Anakin doesn't get it, it's just so upsetting. It's like, dude, He is literally telling you he's a Sith Lord, and he's trying to trick you into becoming a Sith Lord by saying he knows how to save your wife, which because you think your wife is dying. It's so painfully obvious, but Anakin just sits there like, huh, what? What do you know? It's like watching someone what's a good example of it? It's like if you're a fish, right, and you're watching another fish get hooked, right, and that one fish gets the fisherman like reels up that fish, and you're like, dude, how'd you not see it? It was obviously a hook. That was obviously a trap. Whatever. So anyway, that was a weird analogy. Did you get that? I hope you got that, because fishing. Anyway, so then we go back. Anakin fights, he jumps down, says hello there. Grievous says, General Kenobi. And then they fight, and it's kind of silly. How the heck? Grievous has 4 arms and 4 lightsabers. How does Obi-Wan with 1 lightsaber manage to fight off all of them? While he's blocking 1 lightsaber, there's no way he could react in a time, maybe enough to get another one, but there's no way he can take out all 4 lightsabers at once. He does manage to take one of them out pretty quickly, but still, Grievous has to be like really stupid to not be able to take out one guy with all 4 lightsabers, whatever. So that's going on, and what else happened? Yeah, they fight. That whole thing goes on. Then eventually, that's just kind of going on in the background. Other stuff happens. Eventually, Anakin, talks with Palpatine some more. Palpatine's like, "Hey, I'm literally going to tell you to your face, I'm a Sith Lord," and takes him like a couple seconds to realize it. He's like, "Wait, you're the Sith Lord? What? I'm gonna go arrest you and take you to the Jedi Council." And he's like, "Okay, you can. How else are you gonna save your wife, though?" And he's like, "Oh, dang, that's a good point. Whatever. I think I should probably still turn you in the council anyway." Anyway, leaves, goes tells Mace Windu like, "Hey, so Palpatine's a Sith Lord. I think that might be important." And he's like, "A Sith Lord? We must move quickly if the Jedi orders to survive." Anyway, so then Mace basically tells him, he doesn't say it explicitly, but he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna come back, and if this goes well, I'll probably promote you to a master." So anyway, this whole thing's going on, and then so then they go off, right? And we have Mace versus Palpatine, which is a pretty cool scene. We also have Anakin just like sitting in the Jedi Council room, and he starts crying, and Padme starts crying, despite the fact that they're in different buildings. It's just kind of weird. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so poetic." It's just weird. I don't know. Anyway, so that's all going on. Then we got the cool fight between Mace and Palpatine. Palpatine, does his whole thing where Mace walks in. Is like, "Master Windu, I take it General Grievous has been destroyed then. I must say you're here sooner than expected." And Mace is like, "In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor." And he's like, "Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? The Senate will decide your fate." "I am the Senate. Not yet." "It's treason then." It's amazing, amazing scene. Anyway, again, I have so many scenes in this movie memorized. I do like it, okay? I'd like to mention again, I like this movie. It's just way overhyped by Star Wars fans. It's not the greatest, but it's so fun. Anyway, water. So anyway, we've passed the 3-hour mark. Let's go. Okay, so what's going on? We have that going on. Then Palpatine just kind of like fights them all. Manages to take out 3 Jedi in like 3 seconds, and then he fights Mace Windu, which takes a bit longer because I don't know. Anyway, so then that's all going on. Mace starts to actually defeat Palpatine. Palpatine loses his lightsaber. He's kind of like, oh no. And Anakin shows up because he just decided to. No one told him to show up. And Mace is just kind of like, "Dude, what are you doing here?" Anyway, I'm gonna kill Palpatine here. And he's like, "What? No, he has to stand trial. I need him." And he's like, "I don't care." And anyway, he's going to kill him. Then Anakin slices off Mace with his hand, and then Palpatine electrocutes him. And also, Palpatine like deflected the lightning back into his own face. Palpatine's kind of dumb, I'm gonna admit. He tries to electrocute Mace Windu, right? Because he's already been outed as a Sith Lord. He may as well use his Force lightning. And then Mace deflects this, and it goes back in Palpatine's face. It's literally like burning his face off and melting it. Palpatine just keeps going, because why? I don't know. And he's like, "Oh, Anakin, he's trying to kill me." Oh, like, dude, you're literally like electrocuting yourself. What are you doing? Just stop electrocuting him. Whatever. Anyway, so then Palpatine just managed, after, Mace's hand gets chopped off, Palpatine can then electrocute him and throw him off a building. And it's so dumb. There's so many fans that want to see, like, Mace Windu come back. It's so stupid. I don't get it. People are like, "Mace Windu should come back. It'd be so cool if Mace Windu came back." Like, no it wouldn't. What? You tell, like, Mace Windu falls, gets electrocuted, has a hand chopped off, falls like a bazillion feet down to a pit, right? Tell me you want him to come back, but you don't. But you think Palpatine coming back is stupid, huh? what? I don't get it. It's some of the same fans who are like, oh, Mace Windu should come back. That'd be so cool. But they're like, Palpatine returned? That's so stupid. Why did they do that? That's so dumb. What do you want? Huh? Huh. Anyway, also it would be dumb if Mace Windu comes back, because Anakin attacking Mace Windu is symbolic of him, being rid of the Jedi and becoming a Sith. So Mace Windu surviving would kind of undermine that. Anyway, whatever. So then Palpatine, Anakin and Palpatine, they have their chat, and it's like, henceforth you shall be known as Darth Vader. I don't know why he has that long pause in between. It's kind of weird. Anyway, so then he goes to go to the Mustafar system, wipe out the remaining separatist leadership. Amazing. Anyway, so he has that whole thing. Now Anakin is full on evil. He goes and takes a quick chat with Padme, and he's like, "Hey, I'm totally not evil, but anyway, I'm gonna be going away for a bit." And Padme's like, "Oh, what the heck?" Anyway, then he leaves. He goes off to Mustafar, and then Order 66 happens, which originally wasn't that cool of a scene, but now that we've had all the expanded stuff, and we've, with the Clone Wars and whatnot, it's actually a pretty cool scene. And it's really sad, because we actually get attached to these Jedi, whereas in the original movie, you don't know any of the Jedi, so it's not really special. Anyway, so that whole thing happens, and then we move on, and Obi-Wan somehow survives. The thing is, they literally just, shoot the cliff that Obi-Wan's on. He falls, and they're like, I think he's dead. How does Obi-Wan survive that? What is up? It's so inconsistent. When characters survive from great heights in Star Wars, like Mace Windu didn't survive, but Obi-Wan did, and Darth Maul did, and Palpatine did. I don't know. I guess maybe it doesn't make that. It's not that crazy for Mace Windu to survive, but what's up with that? Why can't people just survive falls? I don't know. Anyway, so when that whole thing happens, and then what else is going on? We have Order 66, then we have Anakin vs. Obi-Wan, which is pretty sweet, I will admit. They have their whole thing where they're like, Padme is like, Anakin, just come away with me. We can be all happy together. And he's like, dude, I'm becoming more powerful than any Jedi has ever dreamed of. I'm so awesome. All right, I can just kill the Emperor, and then we can rule the galaxy. And she's like, Obi-Wan was right. You've changed. He's like, huh? I've always been like this. I've always been evil. And she's like, oh my gosh, no, I can't believe it. Oh, I'm so sad. Anakin, you're breaking my heart. I can't believe you're evil. It's not like you told me you killed a bunch of people in the last movie. I can't believe this. You're evil? Oh, I'm so shocked and sad. Really, Padme? You didn't see this coming? All of us saw it coming. Anyway, so then Anakin decides he's going to choke out his wife. I mean, well, they probably did that before in the bedroom. Anyway, so that whole thing happens. He kind of chokes her, and then she kind of just falls over. And Anakin, after literally choking his wife and having her fall to the floor, is like, you turned her against me. Anakin's like, Obi-Wan's like, you have done that yourself. And it's like, you will not take her away from me. And it's like, your anger and your lust for power have already done that. And again, just some iconic lines going on here. What does it say next? And then it says, if you're not with me, it says, I have brought peace, freedom, justice, and security to my new empire. Your new empire? If you're not with me, then you're my enemy. Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. And if you're not, no, then it says, if you're not with me, then you're my enemy. And it's like, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Are you kidding me? Again, another stupid prequel line. Only a Sith deals in absolutes? Only a Sith? That's the only one who can deal in that? This statement itself is an absolute. Are you stupid? Also, what is only a Sith deals in absolutes? The Jedi deal in absolutes all the time. Whatever. So, another just stupid line is like, I will do what I must. It's like, you will try. Then we have the dun 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 dun. Again, the build up to this fight is stupid. All the dialogue is stupid, but the actual fight itself is pretty sweet, I will admit. Anyway, then we cut back to Yoda and Palpatine fight. Again, another just funny fight, because there's so much stupid dialogue. I did a whole video talking about why this fight is just stupid funny, but it's great. It's so amazing. And then we have the scene where the Palpatine shoots Yoda across the room. Then Yoda force pushes Palpatine across the room. He falls backwards into his chair. It's hilarious. He's like, Master Yoda, you survived. Surprised? Now you'll experience the full power of the dark side. Psh. It's if so powerful you are, why leave? Lord Vader will become more powerful than either of us. Psh. And they fight. It's so silly, man. I love it. And then we get back to Anakin and Obi-Wan. They have some more silly dialogue, like what was he? No, he doesn't say you were the chosen one yet. He says that later. He says Anakin trusts Bubbles is evil. It says that after, give me because they're on the thing. They have this platform, right? They're floating on this lava river. Now, for whatever reason, despite the fact that they're like a meter away from lava, this should be burning them up and killing them, but it isn't. Also, all the lava bursting up and getting onto their clothes isn't killing them, because whatever, it's burning their clothes, but it isn't like melting their clothes. It should be melting their clothes. Whatever, sure. So anyway, then they get there's like part of the facility that's just crashing and burning. They're just continuing to fight while just like hanging onto this giant metal thing that is somehow staying upright in the lava river, despite the fact it's like a mile tall. Anyway, it then goes off of a lava fall. Obi-Wan swings around, somehow lands perfectly on a platform. I don't know how. Anakin, as this thing is falling, it's going over the lava fall, runs along the side of the thing, does a flip like a mile into the air, jumps down onto like a droid like this, somehow goes like this high up, and somehow perfectly lands on like not over here, on the droid. And also the fall doesn't hurt him. It doesn't hurt his legs because apparently fall damage doesn't exist when you're a Jedi. Anyway, so then they continue to fight, and you know they say some more funny lines. He's like, I should have known the Jedi were planning to take over. Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. What do you mean from your point of view the Jedi is evil? What's up with this point of view stuff? You can't just say from my point of view like blah blah blah. That's not how stuff works. What is this with Star Wars? And this is where Obi-Wan got it apparently. You just say, oh, from a certain point of view, my opinions are good and your opinions are bad. I don't know. To be fair, I do use that one all the time. But still, it's like, what the heck? How does that work? Anyway, so then they keep going, and from my point of view, Jedi evil. Well, you are lost. This is the end for you, my master. And then we get the greatest stupid line of the whole prequels. Anyway, Obi-Wan jumps on the hill. Dun, 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 dun. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. And dun, 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 dun. You underestimate my power. Dun, 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 dun. Don't try it. Dun, 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 dun. Ah! Gets his legs chopped off. Falls to the ground. Gets both of his legs and his only non-robot arm chopped off. He is now limbless, besides his one robot hand. Anyway, he's just crawling on the ground and he's like, you were the chosen one. It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness. I hate you. You're my brother, Anakin. I loved you. It's pretty emotional. I get it. It's an emotional scene, but it's also just silly. Anyway, Obi-Wan just steals Anakin's lightsaber then, and that's kind of silly. What else? What does he do? He just leaves. He just leaves Anakin there and is like, well, he's not dead. He might die though. He's literally on fire. But you know, whatever. I'll just leave. I'm sure that's the Jedi way. So then he just leaves. He goes back, picks up Padme, and Padme is not dead. So she survived being force choked, and so Anakin then just takes her, and you know, apparently Padme is so pregnant. She's apparently giving birth now. So they take her to a medical facility, and they're like, so she's pregnant. She's about to give birth. So she gives birth, and the thing is that they don't say like, oh, she died in childbirth. They say, oh, well, it appears she's perfectly healthy, but she's lost the will to live. She's lost the will to live? Just don't use the billions of dollars of medical equipment around us. No, let's just get on our knees and pray. She's lost the will to live? What are you talking about? What kind of poetic garbage is this? She lost the will to live? Huh? What is this, George? You could have just said she died in childbirth. What is this lost the will to live crap? Padme literally dies because she's sad. And people still say this is the greatest Star Wars movie. What are you talking about? Oh my goodness. Anyway, so that's just kind of funny to me. Anyway, then Obi-Wan's just like, well, we got these two babies. What are we going to do with them? We can't let the Empire find them now that the Empire's a thing. So, the rich guy, the Senator Bail Organa, is like, we'll take the daughter. My wife and I have always dreamed about having a daughter. We're going to take her. She'll be well kept. And she'll live a very fancy, rich life on Alderaan. Obi-Wan's just like, I'm going to take this. I'll take the kid, you know. Just leave him with his aunt and uncle. on this backwater planet. He's just gonna be a dirt farmer. That'll be good. So one kid gets to live a rich, fancy life, and the other kid gets to be a dirt farmer. I feel like that's the plot of a movie, like one of those separated at birth movies. I feel like there's a movie out there that's like that, where it's like like nurture versus nature. I mean, you could get into that whole thing there. But anyway, that has nothing to do with this. It's just because they needed George set up these characters that way in A New Hope. He's like, well, I just need to awkwardly shove every. This is the last movie, that I'm gonna make, and this takes place before A New Hope. So I just need to awkwardly shove everyone into positions. Palpatine needs to become the Emperor. Anakin needs to become Darth Vader. Obi-Wan needs to become a hermit in the desert. C-3PO and R2-D2 need to become droids on Captain Antilles' ship. So they're gonna have that, and also I'm just gonna wipe C-3PO's memory so he can't talk about the prequels in the original trilogy because he doesn't talk about them in the original trilogy. And then Owen and Beru, they're gonna be on a farm. Luke's gonna be with them. Let's see, Leia's gonna be with Padme. He also considered having Han Solo in this movie to set him up too. He ultimately decided against it because again, way too much stuff in this movie. So anyway, the Millennium Falcon is actually visible in a scene in this movie, so that's kind of like a remnant. He wanted to have Han Solo in this movie, but he ended up not having Han Solo in the movie because it would have been kind of dumb. Anyway, oh jeez, what else? Yeah, he just kind of shoves everyone in their A New Hope starting positions, and also the Death Star. They're like, yeah, the Death Star's under construction, and Grand Moff Tarkin's here, because I don't know. So it's just kind of weird. Episode 3 just kind of ends in a weird way, They're just like, where is Padme? Is she safe? Is she alright? It seems in your anger, you killed her. No. It's like, yeah, that's a dumb scene. Anyway, so, yeah, there's that. That's the whole original Star Wars trilogy. Let's talk about the sequels, yeah? I can do that. I think at 3 o'clock I might just stop, because I probably could keep going, but I think I'll just stop it at that point. So the sequel trilogy. I like Force Awakens. It has a fun story. It's basically A New Hope, but it's okay. It's not the greatest, but it's okay. Return of the Jedi, The Last Jedi I really like. I've talked those before. And then The Rise of Skywalker I don't like. I'm probably not going to talk about these ones in much depth, because, again, I don't. That's going to take me another couple hours to talk about the sequels in depth. So what other Star Wars stuff do I want to talk about? Let's see. Just some fun facts, I guess. Well, I actually talked about a bunch of fun facts, but I don't know. There's a really weird time after, because 2005 is when we got, oh my gosh, Revenge of the Sith. Oh, my brain is not working well, guys. Okay, so Revenge of the Sith, we got that, and then, it was 2005, and it wasn't until 2015, so 10 years where we had, kind of just stale. Nothing really happened with Star Wars. 2012 was when Disney bought it. 2015 was Force Awakens. So we had about a 10-year period where nothing's really going on with Star Wars. The Star Wars fan base wasn't really, doing much. Again, I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but Star Wars fans was really just a niche thing for nerds. It wasn't until Disney bought it that it became the big thing it is today. It became bigger over time, especially in the hype building up to The Force Awakens. It got a lot bigger, and a lot of new Star Wars fans, like myself, got into it so that they could get ready for Force Awakens. That was the reason I got into Star Wars. I saw there was a new one coming out, and oh, that sounds like a fun movie series to get into. It was this time I was, I was a big fan of Indiana Jones. I was like, oh, it's got Harrison Ford in it, who played Indiana Jones. George Lucas was involved in both movies, I think I like this. So that's how I got into Star Wars. But, yeah, okay. I think I should just end it here. I'm tired. You're probably tired. This recording's been going on for 3 hours and 17 minutes. I could maybe go longer. What do I want to talk about? What do I want to leave you with? What closing thoughts do I want to leave you with? So Star Wars. At the end of the day, it's amazing. It's such a special thing. But the thing I always want to remind people, that it's something I think about very often, is a quote George Lucas said, where, I don't know what he said exactly, but it's something along the lines of, don't let Star Wars become your life, alright? Star Wars is not everything. Star Wars is, a myth. It's something amazing to make you happy to think about. But it shouldn't be your life, all right? The whole point is, you're supposed to leave the moisture farm, go off on your adventure, become the hero. So, Star Wars is amazing. Don't let it become your life. Don't become me. Now, obviously there are other things in my life, all right? But I think this is something I think about. I try to think okay, I love Star Wars. I have a whole YouTube thing around Star Wars, but I can't let it become my life. There are other things in life to Star Wars, and that's something I honestly kind of struggle with. I think about Star Wars so much. That's why I was able to make a video talking for 3 hours about Star Wars. I have all of this useless knowledge in my head about Star Wars, and it's fun. It's fun for me, but at the same time, I have to realize, like, there's more to life than just Star Wars. There's more to life than just talking for 3 hours about Star Wars. Um, so yeah, if that's the closing thought I want to leave you with. There's more to life out there. Star Wars is amazing. It can be part of your life, but don't let it be your whole life. I got other things in my life. I got other things I want to do in life more than just talk about Star Wars all day. But Star Wars can be a fun thing, and that's again that's not to discredit Star Wars, but it can just be your fun thing. It can be something fun. Don't get so caught up in it. Don't get so caught up in, oh, the lore. This doesn't make sense. This new Star Wars thing ruins the lore. Don't get caught up in that. Just enjoy it. These movies are fun. They always have been dumb. They've always had dumb things in them. All right, like that's not a new thing in the sequels that they have. Writing and direct whatever problems. They got plot holes. All Star Wars movies got them. Almost all movies have plot holes. So don't be so angry all the time. Just enjoy Star Wars for what it is. It's fun movies. They're enjoyable to watch. We like them because they got all sorts of things, different Star Wars things. Different strokes for different folks. You want more like deep, in-depth stuff. We have Andor, and we have parts of the prequels that have that really good rich lore and world building and character-driven stuff, right? But if you just want fun action scenes, you got like the Kenobi series. That's got a bunch of fun like lightsaber fights and stuff, and all that. Different Star Wars thing for different people. So, as I'm losing my voice, I'm going to close out this video. We made it 3 hours and 20 minutes of just talking about Star Wars. I don't think anyone's going to watch this all the way through. Maybe somebody will. You probably shouldn't. You probably should do better things with your life. But I hope you all have a great holiday season. Your Christmas, whatever you celebrate. It's great. I'm having a great time here. I just, I had a free day today. And I thought, I'm going to do something really stupid. I'm going to talk about Star Wars for a very long time. So, maybe you just skipped around this video. Maybe you just left it on in the background while doing something else. I don't really care. Anyway, this is the end of the video. Bye.